Okay. Don't ask me why. I pushed go live and it just hung up.
Yeah, now we got to get everybody moved over again, I suppose. So.
They're probably all hung up on the other
Yeah,
one.
they are. They're waiting to see if you come up on the other one. So we'll have to give them a minute to figure out that it just flipped.
Probably isn't.
That's true.
We got two of them here.
Yeah.
Four.
Unfortunately, guys.
You can see and hear this one, can't you?
Hopefully.
I clicked. Yeah, I clicked start stream, and it just little circly arrow thing, and nothing would work. So I just had to close the tab. Yeah, got good sound. I can see the video looks good. Well, let's let people show up. We got 5 now. Jeez, YouTube sucks. I'm thinking of going respawning on Rumble too. I've downloaded a bunch of my videos
over to Rumble.
No, not to Rumble. I just downloaded them on a hard drive over there. But at least now, if YouTube tries to screw with me, I've got. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, Flash, welcome. Don't recall seeing you again before. Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome, Flash.
Besides, on my new "Where Does Gold Come From?" It's going to start neutron star mergers. Everyone's going, no, it comes from supernovas. No, it comes from. Some guy said it comes from the dirt. That's, what more is there to say? I'm like, well, that all depends on whether you want to get some gold or not.
Right. Yeah. You want gold.
It comes from trees. We all know this. I said
Oh,
so.
yeah. The ancient tree thing. Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, Chris.
Oh, is he having a stream tonight? Oh, man. That's cool, Flight. If you ever have any questions, just go ahead and ask them. Since you've been lurking, you'll see a good question will keep things going for an hour. Anyhow, I've been busy this week trying to figure out some issues. And I figured out, A, what's happening, not necessarily why it's happening, and B, how to keep it from happening, but C, how to fix after it's happened. That's being a little bit more recalcitrant. For all of those who are waiting on the previous stream, that photomicrograph you were seeing was the inside of a crucible that we had smelted some resin in. And as you can see, it's got what looks like dendritic gold on the surface. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
And also some spheres that look to be about the same size and shape. Hello, Oscar. Try and pronounce it properly there.
Spanish, yeah.
Oscar Marin. Yep. Hi, Dirty Goat. And
hi, everybody.
Hey, Bryce.
Yes, my little burrito. You are here.
What, is Parrish there?
Yep.
Hey, the macho taco is in the house.
Did you send him that picture?
No, I didn't send him that picture yet.
Call it up and show it to him on the camera here.
I will send it to him right now.
Okay, she's going to send you something, Tom. We saw that. Was like, we have to take a picture of that and send it to Tom. But anyhow, so that crucible looks like, there's some gold there and there's some spheres and none of that should be there. Hey, 1000, how's it going? So that is from some of the stage 1 resin. No. You need a microscope. Let's see. Okay, Flash. And anyhow, as most of you are aware, we've been having trouble getting good recoveries from the resin by direct smelting. Now, I assumed that if I oven baked it gently, that I wouldn't lose any gold, and then I'd have a nice consistent product that's easy to work with and everything. Plus, it
Dries it out.
it didn't seem to make sense to put something wet in a crucible charge.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not your
Well, I
normal
don't know where it
procedure.
went there.
Yeah, you don't want to create
Yeah.
popcorn or something.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I don't know where it went.
Okay.
I'm looking for it.
It's going to be a while before I can go anywhere. I got a project here I got to complete first with Scott. But anyhow, so I wasn't getting good recoveries out of it. And so one of the theories was that perhaps in that baking process, for some bizarre reason, we were actually losing gold. So since I'd already done the first stage and the second stage resin and dried them out, I went to the third stage resin, which only had theoretically, 2 grams of gold in it. Hey, Mr. Lodak. And instead of drying it, I just took a little bit and air dried it, like 50 grams. And then I took half of that and baked it in an oven at 400. And then I fired all of those. And we had some very interesting results.
It's not in here, Bear.
Well, that's not my smartphone.
We may want to pull that forward
Yeah,
a little
I
more.
Just say it.
Let's see.
Well, you can tell Parrish what it was.
Well, I think they can see it basically. They may not be
Okay.
able to read it quite. But anyhow, this is the wet resin here. 10 grams of wet resin. Okay, well, first of all, let me do a little thing. These have to be corrected for the fact that wet resin doesn't have as much solids in it as dry resin does when you're weighing the bulk resin. So you have to correct for the moisture content. So these have all been corrected for the moisture content of the resin. Each charge had 10 grams of that resin in the charge. Okay. And the wet resin recovered, if you dried enough wet resin to get 10 grams of dry resin, it should have had, the bead would be the equivalent of 0.273 grams, which is significantly better than it was calculated to be. When I the resin that was dried at room temperature got me a 0.263 bead. As soon as I went to 145 degrees, as you can see, it just dropped to a 0.142 or almost half of that. And then down 0.119 and out here 0.11. No, I think this is 0.109. This is a little bit lower than that one. What did I do wrong here? Let me just see. 250.
It's right here.
Okay. So anyhow, by drying the resin at anything above room temperature, we get dramatic losses. This would be kind of consistent with the losses that I'm seeing on the stage 1 and stage 2 resin.
Right.
If this is what the actual loading is, this is what I'm recovering. And they were both cooked out here in an oven. So the problem right now is we've got over an ounce of gold in resin that doesn't want to give it up real well, or we've evaporated about a half an ounce of gold out of that resin. Now, in the future, all we got to do is make sure we don't dry it at anything above room temperature, and it looks like that will resolve the problem. But now the question becomes, why are we not getting this? The only two possibles that come to my mind are, number one, we're actually evaporating the gold out of the resin. Now, at 145 degrees,
It should never happen.
it would have to be some volatile complex that just has a gold atom hanging on the side somewhere. But the other molecule is a large volatile molecule.
Right.
That's my thought. And anyhow, so it just seems unlikely that it's actually evaporating at these temperatures.
Right.
But one thing that could be happening is the resin itself is changing. It's compactifying. Something's happening
Deeper absorption
to the resin
or
itself that keeps it from giving up the gold as easily. And I don't know what that might be. Oh, it actually dries pretty well at room temperature, Chris. You can put it on the counter, just blow air on it, no problem. But I also know a guy who's got a freeze dryer, although that's mainly for food, and I don't want that in it because it smells things up. And anyhow, so my guess is something is happening to the resin. Now, looking at that inside of that crucible, it looks like there's still gold there for whatever reason. I don't know why. And there's also some spherules. There's a different picture I'm looking at here that Lauren sent me that actually shows a round gold sphere. And it looks exactly like you would expect a resin sphere coated with gold to look like.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going on the assumption right now that it's some kind of encapsulation or something. So we tried something just yesterday. We took some of the stage 2 resin, put it in a blender, and beat the bejesus out of it and turned it into a powder, figuring if it's a physical encapsulation or something, maybe this will break that up.
Yeah.
It didn't make much difference at all. Okay. Now, another thing that was interesting is I had the standard charge would be like 10 grams resin, 10 grams silica, 20 grams soda ash, 10 grams borax, 60 grams litharge. Now, litharge is lead oxide. And the theory is that the oxygen from this would react with the hydrogen and the carbon and maybe some other stuff in the resin and oxidize that resin out of there. Now, when I furnace this, I got about 55 grams of lead, which, if you look at 60 grams of lead oxide, is essentially 100% of the lead oxide was reduced to pure lead. Okay? So what I did was I took this and I changed it a little bit. 8 grams, same amount of resin. 10 grams resin. Then this is 8 and 16 and 8 and 60 plus 2 grams potassium nitrate and 2 grams fluoride. Now, both of these should be strong oxidizing agents, and the assumption is that should reduce the amount of reduction of the litharge, because you're adding oxygen in there, so you should get less clean lead. Okay? It also gave a 55 gram lead butt. So perhaps the less dry resins undergo some kind of reaction similar to an oxidation reaction with the moisture that's in them.
Yep.
I know that they were doing where they're trying to break down plastics and stuff using like an autoclave, and they found out if you dry it first, it doesn't work near as well. You want to have water in that reaction. It helps break down the plastics. Don't know why. That may be what's happening here.
Does the water act as an oxygen?
I don't know. I didn't look at that carefully, but basically they could turn waste plastic into oil
Right.
fairly efficiently,
Right.
but only if it was wet,
Really?
not if it was dry. Yep. I mean, because the original assumption was you want to dry it so you have less mass to heat
and melt it. Yeah.
But they found out if it had a certain moisture content, it would react much better.
Huh.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, Sean.
And so anyhow, hey, Rusty. So anyhow, this is the solution for the future, but I've still got that stuff I got to deal with. Now, the next issue we're going to try is ashing it, where we just take the resin with no charge or whatever, just put it in the furnace and heat it up and try and get it to oxidize and hopefully not drive off much of the gold. Once we've got ashed resin, then we'll put the charge on top of it and see what we get. If that doesn't work, maybe the next thing is to try rehydrating the resin. We could even put it in a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
You know, it's a possibility. We could boil it, just put it in a pan and boil it.
You don't suppose that this is why the guys at Eco Goldex were trying to use a pressure cooker?
Well, that's for the carbon.
Right, I get that, but maybe there's more to it than just that.
Well, if you're trying to elute it, that would make sense. But you could probably elute this without a pressure cooker too, just using the right chemicals. I say, I don't know. We were trying to avoid the elution because it gets a little complicated, and we certainly can by simply room temperature drying. Hi, Chuck. We're not using ore concentrates. We're using loaded ion exchange resin, and I don't know if I got any here. Yeah. This is what it looks like. This is ion exchange resin, and depending upon which canister in the circuit I was using, should be anywhere up to about 10% gold. Okay. And so that's what we're trying to do. The ore we have, the Eco Goldex solution dissolves it and deposits the gold on the ion exchange resin quite readily. And so anyhow, that's what we're trying to do now. We got the whole process down to the last step.
Yep.
And now we actually have a last step. It may be more efficient in the long run to use a chemical stripping and reusing of the resin sort of thing.
Maybe.
But it gets a little bit more complicated. You got a lot more waste to deal with.
Yep.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, you're creating chemical.
And so anyhow, we have a solution for the future, it looks like. Now I'm trying to get rid of the problem from the past, which is deal with that dry resin. And plus,
fix one problem, create another one.
Yeah. And then the thing is too, I've got a lot of slag from past samples.
Yeah.
That I want to reprocess too.
Correct.
That we're then going to turn into jewelry?
No, we're turning it into gold. It's not our gold, remember?
Yeah, I know. I meant the slag itself.
No, that stuff that you saw was real clean. Like sulfuric acid with charcoal. Not specifically sure what you're talking about, Sean.
Stripping, but
well, you wouldn't usually strip charcoal with sulfuric. Well, you might if it was an acidic thiourea solution, maybe.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I'd say that's kind of our issue at this point. So I can go ahead and do some, I want to get at least one more data point at each of these issues here so that we can, have a little more confidence in the exact curve. But that sure looks like the issue.
Something's happening there.
Yeah.
Now let's figure out what.
Yeah. I want to know what so I don't make the mistake again, or so that I can counteract it in the future.
And you're still off by, an interesting percentage in how this is working at this point. So this is part of it. Not necessarily the whole answer, but part of it.
Now, as an interesting story, yesterday I got really excited because I've been doing these assays, and I've got these sheets here where I've got the charge. This is a standard temperature profile right now, so rather than rewriting it every time, I just put that. But this one here I did day before yesterday, and at the end of the day I took the bead from cupellation and put it in nitric acid to part, went home for the night. Then the next morning I came back, I started this sample here, and I had this button cupelling at the same time I was cupelling the parted bead there and putting it back into a bead.
Right.
And I lost track of which one I was doing. And so when on the one cupel, I got this really nice big bead and it was yellow. I asked Eva, I said, Eva, did you inquart silver into that sample? And she said, no. I said, well, why not? She said, well, it wasn't on the sheet. Well, as you can see, it was on the sheet right here. She just missed it. So that led me to believe that I was looking at the bead from this, when in fact I was looking from the bead from this. And if you notice, well, you can't read it, I'm sure. This one was 0.634 grams. The other one's 0.323. Now, 0.323 is about 50% of stage 2 resin, but 0.634 is 100%. And so I thought, woohoo, we fixed it. What we had done was we had just pulverized the resin in a blender and furnaced it. But yeah, that was, we're real excited for about 15 minutes till I figured out my error.
Realized what went wrong.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's similar, Sean. By the way, Lauren, if you're watching, did you ever part that bead and weigh it that that was parting when I left? If you do, then I could write down the number here and get my records done. Anyhow, it's been a busy week. And part of that is because tomorrow I go in for hernia surgery, and that's not a big deal, but it's going to slow me down for a bit. Usually something like this, I'll probably be basically in the bed for 2 or 3 days, and then I'll be able to get up and about, but I'll have to take it real careful. And then I'm going to really have to take it careful because I'm going to feel all right.
Yeah, I know. You're going to have to recover for a while.
So I've tried to get some stuff set up so that I've got things I can do here, and I've got some bottle rolls to do and stuff like that while I'm recovering.
That's good.
And then the next stitch will be to go back out to Lawrence and start doing more of these,
and that won't be too
smeltings,
bad.
Which isn't too bad.
No,
just
that's
that I got
not so much.
I got to get down on the ground because the furnace is sitting on the ground underneath an exhaust structure there, so that'll be a little bit much. Yeah, smoking. Yep.
I love those entrances, smoking.
What did he say?
Slides in sideways in a Russian Unimog. Look what I picked up cheap in Ukraine. Sure, it needs a lot of work, but these things rock.
Good grief.
Says Eva. Chris says, Eva, did you get that straitjacket delivered yet? I think that means he thinks I'm going to be a little fidgety.
Yeah.
No, I did not. But I am considering using fry pans or
Yeah,
other
I was gonna
objects
say she has a
to
cast
render
iron
him,
frying pan, so.
hopefully.
Lars, that's actually a good point. He says, if it's a guy, isn't it a himia? Not a hernia?
Good
Yeah.
question, Lars.
Yeah. But anyhow, so I've got stuff to do to keep me from going crazy. And then I'll be back at the smelting. And we'll be trying different things to try and fix. Once you've already dried it, what can you do? Well, we got something besides if Lauren gets bored or whatever, everything's out there. He can play with it. So no big deal. Let's see. Yep, Goldstream. Anyhow, so that's basically what's been going on there. Say we found a way to fix the problem for the future. Now we're trying to fix the past, and so far I've recovered about a little over 4 grams of gold.
Good.
And I got a video of it. I'll be getting a video edited too. I got a lot of video stuff that raw footage. So I'll get that out. Say I was racing the hospital clock, so to speak, to try and get this figured out before then.
Get prepared, yeah, because you're going to be down for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't count on it.
Well, if you don't be careful, then you're going to be back in there, and then it's going to be longer.
I told
They'll
them
be
to
down
give them
again.
a little
Yeah.
hint to do some extra liposuction while they're in there. See if he can get his boyish figure back.
Is rose quartz a positive sign for gold?
Not necessarily, Lars. Not that it couldn't carry gold, it very much can. I mean, any of your quartz could carry gold. The biggest thing is testing it, or testing along the transitions of the quartz into other compositions of rocks, limestone or other granite, or depending on what's around the quartz helps to kind of lead you to where there might be gold or gold within
Quartz
it.
is valuable anyway.
Smoking, I do not know for sure. Depends on some of the other contaminants. What we're using is Max Water 104-133 resin. And assuming it would work well, yeah, you could just be pumping it through I wouldn't even think a large pool filter, just a small one. But in my solutions, it was loading up to about 3/4 of an ounce per pound of resin. So that's a large pool filter, you'd have a lot of gold in it.
If you can, pull it out of the water.
Yeah. Have you done an assay on the water? That would be the first thing I would do.
Yep, that's where I would start.
Get a sample of the water, take it to a lab, and have them do like an ICP mass spec. Yes,
Yeah.
Clara?
Yes, Lars, it is a contact zone, or along that quartz is where you'd look. Chris made a good note there that it's more indicative of uranium with rose quartz, especially in the southern environment.
Okay. Well, maybe you'll have an answer for me before the end of the program, eh?
That's a good question, Chris. Is it amethyst
Okay.
or rose quartz?
All righty.
That's another thing you test.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
It could be valuable as is.
Yeah, it could be.
We should get results in a half hour to an hour.
Lauren's working on it.
Yeah, he's on it
So he
right
must
now.
be listening at least, huh?
Yep. Yeah, I would go ahead and work on analyzing the mine water first, because it may or may not have any gold in it. If
Right.
it doesn't have any gold in it, it's not going to do you any good. It's a waste of time. And another thing you could do that would pump a lot of water relatively cheaply would be like an airlift. You could have almost an aquarium pump pushing air down a
tube and pushing water back.
and that would run water up pretty
I would
easily.
think if you're going to try to mine water, you're going to want to move a lot of water through a filter. And that could be the energy cost, could be the negative in that.
Yeah,
you may use
photovoltaics, maybe.
Expend more energy drawing the water through filters than the gold that you recover. Not that you couldn't successfully recover gold. It just may not
be economical.
Right. It may not, economics might not work.
Well, that's why you need to find out how much is in solution
Exactly.
first.
Yep.
Then once you've got a number, you can start doing calculations and determine if it looks plausible that, for the amount of money it's going to take me to build this thing and buy the resin and get the pump set up and pay for energy, am I in the ballpark where I might be able to make money? Because if you're not even in the ballpark, you might as well save all the effort.
Yeah.
And use that money and time to go look for a better location.
Right. Go look for a mine you can mine, or some, metal detecting ground or something.
Yeah. 1,000 is probably not going to make a difference. It's going to be a duplicate of this spot right there. That's what it is. It's it'll fill in that blank right there. Unless he's done another sample too, which he might have. We had some other ideas out there that I left with him if he wanted to get on them. So it's hard to tell. He's a really nice guy, amazing hospitality out there.
Mm-hmm.
Always happy to see me and cheerful
Lauren
and working.
and Clara are both cool people.
Yeah,
and
good.
That's wonderful.
Clara's always making good food. Just come home stuffed.
Worried you might starve. Huh?
Oh my goodness!
Oh,
I say it. It's good food, and she makes stuff low carbohydrate too, so Eva can eat it also. And
yeah, Lauren's keto.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
But he's a smart dude.
But anyhow, it's a vastly better environment to work in than what I had before.
40 cents an hour.
Yeah, the other possibility would be to set up a photovoltaic system.
Well, or solar pumping system, maybe, something that can kind of run on its own energy.
Yeah.
That could make it economic. I mean, that alone right there could make it economic, even if it was a very small percentage of gold.
Well, one of the things too, if you have a generator, it needs to be attended to. Somebody has to be there.
Right, yeah.
Whereas if you have a solar system you could theoretically set it and forget it.
Yeah, it could run 24 hours a day as long as you're not overrunning your power, battery system or something.
Yeah. Even then, if it has an automatic shut off, it just shuts down.
Out on these ranches here, they're using solar pumping systems, and some of these systems that there's a guy in town here that sells one that I don't remember how many gallons per hour that's pumping, but it's a $1,500 solar pumping system that'll pump from a 200-foot well. I mean, it's some of this. There's uses for solar. Unfortunately, it's not to charge your car yet, but
well, I've seen some that do paid for by the taxpayers.
Yeah. There's always that, but
I shouldn't have any problem in terms of the getting to sleep, Chuck. It's the getting up in the morning to be at the hospital at 6 a.m.
I think he means that for your recovery.
Oh,
take time to recover.
If they give me good pills, I will. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, if they give me, decent pain pills, and it's hard to tell nowadays. They seem like they're made of gold or something. But anyhow, they usually put me to sleep pretty well. And Eva's going to try and set up some audio books on her Kindle there, so I can lay in the bed and listen to a story or whatever.
Well, I would think you could prop up a little there and even sit on the internet or something and
Yeah, but
watch videos.
see what happens
or-
when I'm
well,
sitting here?
Yeah, I know. No, you won't
Yeah.
get up that high, but
Yeah, that's the thing, is that looking at the screen is kind of difficult. So that's what I was hoping to just listen to books or something like that. Yeah, pretty much. That works for me, Roberts. Yeah, you will get tired of the snoring. Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense, smoking. So but first I'd go ahead and get a sample of the water. Is it flowing out of the mine anywhere, or is it just stationary? But I would definitely get a sample first to make sure. Even if it was a gold mine, that doesn't mean the chemistry is adequate to dissolve the gold in sufficient quantities to make it worthwhile to process the.
yeah, like you say, start with testing the water.
You'd be kind of tempted if it was in the middle of nowhere to say, well, a little leak of Goldex might help.
Yeah, that might want to be a little careful with.
What could possibly go wrong?
If you ever figured that system completely out economically, you may have quite a deal there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're doing it with copper over at Butte here in the big pit, the Berkeley pit. That's, a hazardous environment.
Yeah.
They're actually getting out enough copper out of the water to pay for the water treatment plant that they're running to clean that water up.
Are they paying for it, or is the taxpayer?
No, the taxpayer helped fund building the water treatment plant, but no, it's privately owned for an environmental cleanup. And it's quite interesting what they're able to take out of water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I would have never believed that, and there hasn't been much written about it because it is pretty private, and there's probably a few trade secrets there, but they are having success literally mining water.
Sounds like a plan, smoking. I'd go for it. Yep. Yeah, that's one of the basic things in any plan is you have to verify your assumptions.
Yep.
I don't care if it's a business, can you do a test market, things like that, see how it sells. But never assume anything. Well, I did it before and it worked well. Eva used to do, was it mainly jewelry or stuff? I don't know, some crafts sort of stuff that she used to do decades ago. And she used to be able to sell them fine at the little craft fairs.
Yeah.
She tried, again, about 10 years later, just didn't sell. The market
Different
changes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. The market will change. What people want one day, they don't want the next. Yeah. In the case of mining, always verify your resource. Make sure you've got legal access to your resource, and figure out all your costs, including reclamation if needed. And you might even, in a situation potentially like this, you could potentially even get payment from the government to do a cleanup.
There might be funding for, that's the thing, is look at the approaches and come up with a good plan.
Come at it from a different angle, possibly.
Yeah, no, they're even in reclamation. If you were able to mine some of these pieces of land and then do the reclamation, part of the mining could help, as well as funding for the reclamation. Could make it very economic to do without it really costing the taxpayers tons of money.
We're going to have to move all of that dirt and process it to get rid of the mercury.
Yeah, well,
I can't help it if there's gold being recovered too in that gravity separation circuit. That's not my fault.
No, so
you're going to pay me for the reclamation, and I just get to keep that stuff. Okay, I can deal with that.
Well, no, there's always ways to.
Yeah, and that's just it, smoking. You never know for sure what's going to sell. I've seen some stuff. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. That, like you were saying, sold like hotcakes.
Yep.
Other times you look at stuff and you're like, wow, that should sell like crazy.
Well,
And
it
it's not
could be,
moving.
well, it could be timing too. You know,
Mhm.
the wrong time of the year.
Yeah, they do have. I don't think they have a guy scaring off the birds. I know they have propane cannons because we were there a few months ago,
Yeah.
and you were hearing the
Yeah, they have.
kaboom.
Yeah, they have motion activated cannons that go off, and
You know what they also have is a drone, and you have
they probably
cameras
haven't
on the
got
shore
that far.
that are
Yeah,
watching
yeah,
for
what's
movement
going
out
right,
there, and then send the drone out and
yeah.
scare them off.
Exactly, Goldstream. It's all about testing and being able to define. I'm going to go over some of that tonight with my subject after Eva. Kind of looking at it and deciding what things do I have to make sure, you know, what checks do I have to make on my list of things to do, you know, in a placer situation.
Yeah, that would be nice, Kodak. I don't think they'll go for that. Darn it.
Yeah,
I haven't. What's a Snake River concentrator?
I'd never heard of one. I was answering more John's question there that, yeah, you're placer mining and pulling up live mercury.
Yeah, I mean, say you're doing a cleanup. Say the nice thing is when they pay you to clean something up and then you get paid for what you're cleaning up too. Why not? You know, you have to dispose of the waste, right? All that mercury contaminated gold. I mean, that's toxic.
Yep.
Got to get rid of it. Absolutely.
Yep, collect it back.
And let's see, I was thinking of something. Oh yeah, just while I'm thinking about it, you guys still like me doing the sign language interpretation behind Eva during her thing? Just checking. I want to make sure I'm not
Chasing
annoying
anybody.
anybody. Yeah. Yep. No, Chris, you're kidding me. Somebody's in on the action and bribing a few politicians? No. Yeah, I hope the water has gold too. That'd be cool.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen a company called Snake River.
no, I haven't
No.
either, Goldstream.
Yeah, that's usually the way it goes, Chris. As soon as anyone comes up with a profitable idea, somebody else figures out a way to get rid of the competition. Yep. Okay, 1,000. Probably not smoking, but you should be able to go.
You should
to
be able to do a water treat. Anybody who treats water,
Test.
tests water. Yeah,
Test water.
Excuse me, tests water. Which almost every city has them because, you know, I mean, they
required.
test. Well, yeah, there's
Wells
requirements
and-
for
yeah.
schools and hospitals and restaurants that have to continually test their water. And somebody who can do water testing can do minerals.
Usually, yep.
Yep, they can give you the readouts on minerals.
I would also, while I was at it, get a kind of a complete scan. You can probably do 40 or 50 different elements for $80, or you can get like just gold and silver for 50. Where I'm at, it's 25 for just gold, and I think it was about 80 for like 40 different elements. And their main thing is they do just that, water testing. Out here, there's a lot of wells.
Yep.
And if you're going to sell that house, you have to have the well tested and approved before it can be sold. So there's just a whole lot of realty business that's required by law. Yep.
Yep. No,
Yeah. And so just about any good water testing lab should have the equipment you need to do that. They may not have the standards to calibrate or not, but if in your area, if you said, you know, to go to, you know, AAA water testing and say, I'd like to test this for gold. And they go, well, we can't do it. Well, do you know someone that does? Yeah, well, triple B water
Right,
testing
right.
will do
This-
it. You know,
yeah, no,
they've got it.
No, there you should be able to make that connection fairly locally, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
That should be, you should be able to, if you got a decent sized town anywhere. I mean, Helena is 35,000 people.
Yeah, it's not huge.
Any decent sized town should have what you need.
Yeah, a water testing lab.
All righty, Jeffrey. Oh, so anyhow, yeah, that's what I would do. Wow, there's glare on the thing.
Yeah.
Oh man,
We got the wrong lights on here,
Yeah, turn
actually.
the other one on. That one's near.
I don't know. Actually, that isn't even that bad. Let's just see. That isn't so bad, is it, guys?
Not terrible. Well, it could also be. It could also wind up either poisoning your resin or being an actual poison in itself and creating a waste disposal issue. Well, at least you got lots of opportunities right now, Jeff. So try that first, and I was wondering about that. Oh, John.
Ouch, John. Ow, that hurt.
Yeah, could you look back there,
Pull
Jeff?
another knife out of your back. Yeah. Arrows out of your heart.
Anyhow, so what are you planning to do now?
I've been just kind of getting equipment ready and that. Trying to go through stuff just because if there is a real issue with being able to get things later, I've been going through my piles of hose clamps and lay flat hose and thinking of all the things that I may need this summer and trying to pile those up right now.
The things you would normally just assume you could drive down to the store
Right,
and get,
exactly.
but which
At some
maybe
point,
an empty shelf.
but by going through that stuff, it also reminds you of those things that you have had to get from somewhere farther away.
Yeah.
So you kind of go through your pile and your toolboxes and think about all those little issues. And it kind of, that way you're walking through the mining process or the testing process and remind yourself that, okay, add that to the list,
Okay, Chris. Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. You wouldn't happen to be coming up from Arizona, would he, Chris, with a pickup truck? I think that was the electric solar system.
Yeah, the solar
I
system.
think that's what he was talking about.
Solar
Let's
pumping system.
Yep. But no, I think that anyone needs to look carefully at their whole life right now and say, okay, what are my critical things?
That's
Silver.
the thing is, just at this point, that's what I've been doing, going through my preps and stuff that I'm keeping for the house or whatever. But going through, what am I, if I do head to the mountains and I'm going to stay up there for a while working, what things do I have to make sure that I have that I probably used up last year or the year before and forgot about replacing? And because I think the supply chains are going to continue to break down.
Mm-hmm.
And with inflation, everything, as everybody knows, you go down to the hardware store today and go down 2 weeks from now, and you will see a price increase and stuff. So if you can buy it right now, it's probably the cheapest it's going to be for a while.
Oh, yeah. I think
so I've been trying to take advantage of that right now. I've got time, and I'm trying to just put all my mining gear in piles and go through stuff and figure out what I should get located right now while I still can.
Yeah, we've already
yeah, John.
We've already ordered enough Eco Goldex to get us through this season.
Yeah.
And
that's
the invoice never clears.
Yeah.
Hey, Terry.
Hey, Terry.
But I just thought that for, at this point, I figured I got to start going through this stuff and
Mhm.
figure out if there's anything else I need to go buy or do, or, go through everything in the little drawers and toolboxes and
Mm-hmm. No, I
kind of prepare for inevitable. Maybe you can't get it.
yeah, I'm looking at that with the resin next once I get this completely figured out.
Well, and I think, if gold goes up, that just means I'm just going to spend more time, whether it's metal detecting or panning or high baking or digging holes with the excavator. One way or another, the higher the price the gold price gets, the higher that price gets, the harder I'm going to probably be going looking for more.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how bad the supply chain gets, because if it gets to a certain point, then it's really going to be difficult to do anything except try and survive. And
Well, I've used quite a bit of
okay,
fire hose
Sean.
before, Sean. The only problems I find is making connections with it. Because to have the fire hose connections versus pipe fitting connections, they're all, the threading and everything's different. So I used to just take the hoses and cut the ends off and put on regular pipe threaded fittings
Like
and stuff.
a 2-inch fire hose thread.
The fire hose,
a 2-inch pipe thread.
no, it won't.
And the gasket would seal.
No, it won't. It's a different thread. Fire thread is different than national pipe tap thread or whatever.
Well, it's not tapered.
Well, it's not the same.
Yeah, we're in pretty good shape, Roberts. Yeah. Testing fire hose. Somebody's got to do it.
Well, yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how certain things are hard to find, certain things are easy to find. I think more like a hard ball, not a softball. Yeah, I'm thinking, once I get this figured out thoroughly, the next thing to recommend is let's buy enough resin for the. And I'm also doing some tests in the next week or two with these other resins from Purolite. Like these are free samples. This is Pure Gold MTA 9920, and see if any of them are better.
Well, and even your lab supplies for you or something. I mean, right now you can probably call and get stuff shipped. Later on, maybe that's not so easy.
Yeah.
Well, we're still waiting for the invoice to clear from Canada so we can get the Eco Gold.
Well, seeing that, yeah, then that's.
As far as I know, it's already been shipped. I don't know. It may not have been shipped. Who knows? It's Canada. They're having some issues up there, last I heard. Before Ukraine took everything else off of the news. Last I heard, Canada was having a few issues.
Well, unfortunately, that's the problem.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the nice thing about the fire hose is it'll take high pressure. So if you want to, jack up the engine or whatever, fire hose can work for high pressure, where your lay flat blue hose, isn't pressure. It'll take, I don't know, 40 pounds or 60 pounds of pressure.
Can you manufacture the resin yourself? I sure as hell can't. I suspect it's a fairly complex, very specific manufacturing process. It's not just like any kind of resin. It's more particular. You got these molecular binding sites And yeah, that's a very specialty thing. It's not hard for the people who know how to do it, but nobody else I wouldn't think of. I know Canada's pretty much chilled out, but how's the banking system and transportation working up there, Goldstream? I know you're in BC, so it's a little different maybe than back east. We're dealing with Montreal, I think it was.
Even worse, going east.
Yeah. Okay, Goldstream says banking's normal where he's at, little one.
Good for him.
A destroyer's bilge pump, huh?
Huh.
Wow. He says transport is normal in BC. Terry says no problems in Nova Scotia.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
Goldstream said they never had any banking issues. Okay. It's hard to tell nowadays. You got all kinds of different information sources, and a lot of them have agendas that they're pushing too.
Well,
and so it's really hard to trust any information you get, and that makes it kind of difficult to evaluate the situation. You know, it's just like when you're hearing about body counts in Ukraine, it's like, okay, and the enemy is reporting the body count. Seems to me in Vietnam we had a system like that too, and from the people I know that have been there, they said sometimes the math got a little creative.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. It would depend on what you're calling fine gold, Sean. I mean, the vortex mats and getting the box dialed in shouldn't be an issue for the majority of gold. Goldstream might be able to jump in on that one a little bit, but he's done a little more fine testing with equipment.
Yeah, 300 psi. The thing that I'm thinking is that when you have a fire hose blow at 300, unless it's really well secured, it's also going to start, silly squirting all over the place too.
Sean, I'm going to agree with Chris right there. Depending on what you're doing for, your sluice box and that, you definitely want to run different kinds of materials for different situations, different sizes of gold and particle shapes. So I think, Chris, that was a great thing to bring up because you do want to have some variation within your sluice box.
Hi, John. Well, that's always an important thing to do, is to try different things and test your tailings too.
Hello, John.
I've got 3 samples of tailings heading out to Hiddle right now. 60 mesh minus, 3560, and 35 plus from the pad. And first I took a sample. I had to chisel it out.
That happens here.
But then I soaked it in a bucket of water, decanted, soaked it, and did that probably about 10 different times to wash out any dissolved gold. So now I only have the entrained gold, the stuff that's still there.
In or on the rock, yeah.
Yeah. And then get that and see how the various portions are leaching in real life. you know, not just a bottle roll test, but it's been sitting out there for, you know, it was non-frozen for days.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, Chuck, that can be an issue. Yep. That's why, that's one of the things that my panning technique would be good to test things like that, because a normal panning technique has a real issue with something real fine like that. Well, Chuck, what do you mean by lots of it? How many ounces per ton, parts per million, whatever? Round is good. That looks reasonable as a start, Sean.
Yeah.
Make sure you pan your tailings, like with my hand panning technique, just to make sure you're not losing some really fine stuff.
Yeah, you want to get it all, or as
Yeah.
close to all as you can get, but
Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's ore or sand or gravel or whatever. You could call it dollars per cubic yard, ounces per ton, parts per million, whatever. What's the grade of the raw material is the question. You know? See, now that's Chris for you. He knows what a frickin' A52 is.
well, the Keen is built out there, and it's probably the most, some of the most popular equipment over the years.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. The knowledge in his little brain, you know. Yeah, it is hard telling with a dredge, but it's important to test, because you could, if you've got a fair amount of it, but you're losing 90% of it, you might think you're doing pretty good when in fact an improvement in the recovery system would make a huge difference.
Exactly.
You know, so if you're using a dredge, just put a tub underneath the output for a little bit and then do some hand panning and see what you've got. That sounds like pretty good grade. What size sluice do you have? I mean, what size dredge? Sorry. Yeah, an ounce in a weekend, if you're using like a 3-inch dredge. 4-inch dredge. Were there much in the way of cobbles there? I assume if you had a normal amount of cobbles. Oh, that'd be great, Lauren. 0.135. Okay. Okay. I had a pen somewhere. Jeez. Okay, so that's 0.135. Yes, folks, you see stuff in real time here. There's 1.1. See my calculator?
No, I do not.
I had it sitting right here.
On top.
Oh. Yep, there you go. Good call.
Yeah, just looking there.
0.135 times 1.1. Adjusted size 0.149 at 250. 0.149.
Hey, Tricky.
So
It's gotta be just right.
there's the next data point there. And that was with fluorite and potassium nitrate.
That's actually above this one.
Well, it was the 250.
Well, right, yeah.
This is the temperature, but this is
I mean,
equivalent.
better number.
Yeah. So it went from 0.106 to 0.149 by the addition of fluorite and potassium nitrate. And that's kind of what I was thinking. We weren't getting enough oxidation of the resin. And the other thing is, I'd like to be able to oxidize it even more if I could find something that doesn't wind up in the lead button, because then I could cut back the litharge and wind up with less of a lead button to get rid of.
Yeah.
You know, that would be kind of nice. But we'll see how much potassium nitrate we can add before things just get totally out of hand.
Yeah, before you start losing it some, another way.
Well, even with this, I was seeing fire and smoke at particular times during the processing. That's another possibility too.
He just put
You
it
missed
up there,
everything,
1,000.
Tricky.
What did I miss?
Yeah, 1,000. That's the test result right there. This had fluorite and potassium nitrate in the charge. This did not. So this is basically that, and this is basically that. So
You did increase your recovery.
significant recovery there. So
Right.
that would be consistent with it's trapped.
Yep.
You know? Yeah. And what he's looking at now is one where he ashed it first, where he basically cooked the resin at 800 degrees for a while,
Oh, and then started.
and
to
then
blend.
through a standard charge in there. So, say I presume. Yeah, it's tough being over there, 1,000.
Yeah, you're a little ways away from us here.
Yeah. Hope
Thanks,
things,
thanks for being here though again.
I hope things go well over there. He's in Austria.
Yep.
So yeah. And so anyhow, they were trying different things and see what happens.
Well, it'd be interesting if he comes back with a good result there too.
Yep.
That may help too.
Oh yeah, because that might be all we have to do. I mean, if we can break a lot of that down, first, then we can reduce the charge, especially the litharge.
Yep.
And then everything becomes simpler, because 10 grams of resin does not take up much of the crucible. All that other stuff does.
Takes up, yeah.
If I can take that and go 20 or 30 grams of resin that's ashed and then do the rest, that would be a lot better. This is funny. I mean, I'm enjoying this, getting results in real time.
Yeah, right on the show.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yes, Lauren, thank you.
He's also got speakers set up around his shop and a big widescreen TV and a couple couches.
Mm-hmm.
It's a man cavern.
Man cavern.
It's not a man cave. It's a man cavern. So, according to Clara, he's listening while we're doing our thing. He just has to go into the house to get on the computer to type, but he's hooked in some way. I don't know. It has to do with electrons. But why don't you cover everything for a minute
yeah.
while I go to the bathroom
All right,
here?
and then I'm gonna do that switcheroonie too, I think. We'll let Eva in here in a few minutes. I would go with Chris on that as far as go narrower box longer and then widen it out farther down the line. If you start doing that, even Goldstream, if you start doing that on those places you're playing, you might be surprised that the fine gold you get at about an 8-foot or 10-foot length in the sluice box, if you're making modifications in different materials in your box, your catching material, a lot of times you will start to find gold way down where you would have never believed that you'd have gold. And a lot of times it'll be the really, really fine gold that just can kind of keep carrying and carrying through your box. Well, the next thing then, Sean, if you don't really know the quality of the material, is to get consistent amounts of material every time. If you're using 5-gallon buckets or whatever, get consistent amounts and run it. And then, if you're digging in different places, if you run consistent amounts, you start to become pretty wise to what that value would be in that material.
You want any more of the casserole, little one?
Not right now.
Okay.
Probably not tonight.
Well, John, that has been a little bit of an issue as far as the company for what Keith's doing. But with Chris and Keith and the guys they've drug into this adventure, they're figuring it out, and hopefully that can help anybody else who wants to use it, eventually to get through some of these little problems. They're problematic at this point just because there's so many unknowns.
Oh, jeez.
Not the least of which is because I'm not an expert.
They're leaking the State of the Union details in advance.
Yeah, exactly, Goldstream. It's
Well,
just
he hasn't done it already.
we get back to test,
I don't know.
retest, and test again. Yeah.
You two are so testy.
Yeah. Roberts, that would be a no.
The New York Times claims he is redefining the arc of his presidency. And they gave him a positive review for Russia.
We hit the wall when we tried to get a flotation concentrate.
Yeah, carbon is a real problem with cyanide, but not so much thiosulfate. That's one of the reasons that they do thiosulfate.
Well, after Eva's done, when we come back, I'm going to kind of go through some of that, kind of a layout of looking at a piece of ground and then starting to determine what it's going to take.
First, if you want, Jim. And then
Actually, I wouldn't mind a break for a few minutes.
Okay. I shall get my tablet and see what I can find. Gee, I mean, it's been like there's been no news this week,
You always have to test, so that's a big thing. What do you mean, John, by using scraping? Scraping ground for metal detecting, or?
I haven't tried that, Roberts, but with the small cameras they have nowadays in a borehole, you could really do it.
Yeah.
Scrapping.
Oh,
Yeah.
scrapping. I'm sorry. And read it right.
No, he used 1P before. That's why. Not bad. Here's a casserole we're trying. It's no carbs, basically. Ground beef, cheese, tomatoes, onions, and cauli rice.
Yeah.
It's all keto. Not usually going to use a core drill for placer.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Yeah, that would work, Roberts, if you had a
You could
6-inch
do
hole or whatever. Yeah.
Gold Stream. You could use like a soil auger, though, like a 2-inch soil auger, and then run it with a casing along. Drive the casing with it as you're augering. You wouldn't get the contamination from the upper ground, but the only consolation there is you're going to hit rocks, and if you start to hit big rocks, you're kind of screwed at that point. You're the only depth you're going to get is until you hit a big rock.
Yeah, that'd be nice if I can get that to work, because then I can get like 1 gram gold per firing. Right now I'm getting up a little over 0.5 gram per firing.
Well, if that's the case, Sean, you need to look at the area you're trying to find gold in, because if you're where there is gold, you should start to find gold as you're doing, screening down buckets and working with material. And if that's not the case, you're not in the right spot yet. Move again.
Well, that's why you like an excavator. Even a little
Oh
bigger.
yeah, I like
You get a lot of
I like to
material,
do
you
my
can see what's
testing
going
on
on.
a scale that's almost mining scale. But I mean, we've done a lot of testing too with a shovel and a pan. I mean, it all kind of starts with a shovel and a pan, and maybe some sieves to screen some sizing. But and in the end, when you're cleaning up the wash plant or whatever, you're back to a pan a lot of times anyway. It starts there and it ends there. So your gold pan
the
is
alpha and the omega.
Yeah, the gold pan's your pretty all around piece of equipment you really need.
If anyone needs a name for their gold pan, alpha and omega. There you go.
Yeah, Gold Stream. If you get a soil testing auger and then run a casing with it, because they don't always case those, depending on what they're doing for drilling, if for water or sand or whatever. But if you ran it with a real thin-walled casing, even if it was an aluminum case, something you can drive along with the auger as you gain depth, though.
Chris beat me to it. Man. He's amazing.
I'll let you in there. I'm going to run to the restroom too.
Yeah, Tricky. The highest loading is around 10% gold by calculation. Yeah, that's one of the problems with plaster is you need a big sample to be a decent sample. You know, even a bucket is not very much at all. Depends on the size of the gold, of course, but for most placer mining, usually you need like a cubic yard. Oh, goody. Now I've got the hiccups. Now, as long as I don't hiccup when they're slicing on me tomorrow. Oops. Can you stitch it back on? If your material is made of fine particles and your heavy material is going to have the same particle size, depends on how you classify it, Roberts. And in the case of hard rock where you're crushing, it depends a lot on the material characteristics. Is it hard and tough? Is it hard and brittle? Is it soft and brittle? You know, it could really be wildly different. If you're like impact milling and the mineral of interest is soft and in a quartz gang, as that quartz is running around the inside of that impact mill, it's just grinding that softer mineral up to a fine powder. So it's very ore dependent, like anything else. Yeah, Sean, you got to keep moving around, keep testing tailings, things like that, and eventually you find a concentration somewhere when you can exploit. Oh yeah, Tricky, by the way, up on the screen there is my formulas. This is the standard.
Read that on there.
This is the standard plus with some potassium nitrate and fluorite. That seems to have helped. Also, Tricky, as the temperature goes up that you're drying it, the recovery goes down. And I mean quite dramatically. This is at drying at room temperature. This is only at 145 degrees. So you can fire the resin without drying it first. Although, hey, Chris, here's a question for you. Using this formula here, what's the exothermic reaction with wet resin? You got any ideas there? Because there's definitely an exothermic reaction. Not horrendous or anything, but the mixing cup does get warm. It kind of startled Eva. She was mixing it. Bear!
Hey, I was being cautious.
Oh, yeah.
For all I knew, I was going to blow up. Some of us do like
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I was thinking maybe if you put a silica sand on top, you know, just a little coating, and then heated it to that to try and catch any particulates or something too. Oxides. Well, you got litharge and you got soda ash. Silica is not going to do squat. Borax, I don't know. The resin was damp. That's all I know. The resin was damp. We had silica, soda, borax, and litharge as the ingredients. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me too much, Lauren. It'd be interesting to see what happens in terms of losses. But that was my thought too. If you're getting a lot of flame and such, maybe lay a little bit of silica sand on top of it, just to try and catch the particulates.
Oh, so you don't blow it right up through the...
Yeah. The anhydrous oxides. Okay. So probably the litharge. I don't think the soda ash was anhydrous. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens, Lauren. But that doesn't surprise me a bit. So we'll see where we go from here.
Howdy, everybody. The hair is in a ponytail tonight because, like, I didn't want to deal with it. You know, one of those things. Well, as we all know, absolutely nothing has been going on this week. It's been an abysmally quiet week. Well, other than the fact that the internet is freaking out over the concept of global thermonuclear war, I've spent a lot of time today explaining to people that if they merely follow the government's new recommendations on what to do during a nuclear emergency, they'll be great. Now, in case any of you are wondering, our beloved federal government has released new updated recommendations for how to deal with a nuclear emergency. First of all, we should all go out and order government-approved potassium iodide tablets online. They come in 2 different prescription strengths. And by the way, really old people like us don't need them. You know, we're just going to croak anyway. And they have very specific instructions, but you don't need a prescription. If you're trying to find betadine anywhere, good luck. I haven't seen it in months. And no, iodized salt doesn't really help that much, at least not at the government recommended levels. However, the CDC, in their infinite wisdom, has now informed us that should we have to run to our fallout shelters, we need to remember to stay masked and stay socially distanced while we are in our fallout shelters. And furthermore, when the nukes are falling, if you have a 911 level emergency within your fallout shelter, and you have to call 911, as if the phone lines would still be working at that point, you should be sure to inform your 911 operator if you have tested positive for COVID-19 to protect our emergency medical services. End of public service announcement from the federal government on how to deal with your nuclear emergency. Yeah. Hi, Sean. Yeah, I was reading that and I'm like, okay, so provided you could even find an actual fallout shelter anymore, I don't think people are going to be worried about the mask and the social distancing thing. And if,
Mask for fallout.
Yep, obviously. And the calling 911. Something tells me that cellular service may be somewhat interrupted or less than optimal in the event of a nuclear attack. Now, if anybody out there is knowledgeable on this EMP or EMQ or EMTV or whatever the heck it is, feel free to chime in. Okay.
Ground burst won't do anything.
Oh, the sign language person opened his mouth. I think, I think that's a thumbs down here. That, as far as I'm concerned. Now, in other random news that I came across today, bowing to China, shipping carriers refuse to transport U.S. and California goods. Now, this is part of our supply chain business that has been studiously ignored by much of the mainstream media. Finally, somebody in the mainstream media actually decided to look at why the heck there are problems getting shipping containers. So, the export crisis and imbalance of trade hurts American workers, businesses, security, and American goods. Shipping carriers rejected U.S. agricultural export containers worth hundreds of millions of dollars during October and November, instead sending empty containers to China to be filled with more profitable Chinese exports, a 2021 CNBC investigation found. Wow, so Panda Land outbid us for empty carriers. Well, we're getting here. American farmers, ranchers, and growers don't have a shipping container shortage, as has been reported. Really? The news was wrong? I am shocked. Okay? I am shocked here. I'm really shocked. That's just, you know. Foreign shipping containers are refusing to take American and California made products, and instead the shipping carriers take empty containers back to China. The CNBC investigation found that in October and November 2020, shipping containers rejected 178,000 agricultural export containers worth $632 million with an M dollars. China pays shipping carriers so much money to export Chinese-made goods, they are then paid a premium to carry the empty containers from America back to China. As a result, hundreds of thousands of containers with American products were delayed or remained sitting rotting on American docks in American ports while foreign customers wait. In the past year, members of Congress, the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, the California State Transportation Agency Secretary, and the California Department of Food and Agriculture sent letters to the Shipping Council, leading ocean carriers, and federal maritime commissioners. But the export situation has only gotten worse. What does this mean for California? California walnut, almond, and citrus growers and meat and dairy producers are facing not only the loss of their food products because so much of the 2021 crop is still sitting in storage in the U.S., but it's already sold and they aren't getting paid for what was ordered and committed. Payments will not be received until product is delivered. California's walnut industry exported 47% fewer nuts in the shell and 16% fewer shelled nuts during September and October of 2021 than it did the previous year, California Walnut Board reported to Reuters. The 2021 crop we know now has not shipped to the level that we thought, President and CEO of the Almond Alliance of California, Aubrey Betancourt, told AgNet West. The cash flow was not received by our handlers, processors, hullers, and shellers, so they have little or no leeway to afford the pool payments to our farmers for the 2022 year. This is getting to be a scary situation. My, that's a massive understatement right there. I'm not speaking for everyone, but it is a concern, and we're starting to see letters about it that we just don't have the cash flow available for our farmers. The product was grown, processed, and prepared for shipping, but growers and suppliers haven't been paid while the food product sits abandoned and rotting in shipping containers. Growers are now facing the 2022 crops. How do they pay for the new crops when they haven't been paid for 2021? How perishable are walnuts, almonds, citrus, meat, and dairy? California State Transportation Agency Secretary David S. Kim and California Department of Food and Agriculture Secretary Karen Ross sent a letter in early January 2021 to leading ocean carriers requesting they take full advantage of underutilized California ports, including the Port of Oakland, to increase capacity for agricultural exports and help relieve supply chain congestion in San Pedro Bay, to no avail. The CNBC investigation found shipping carriers rejected U.S. agricultural export containers worth hundreds of millions of dollars during October and November, instead of sending empty containers to China to be filled with more profitable Chinese exports. Carriers rejected an estimated 177,938 containers known as TEUs, 20-foot equivalent units, in October and November, according to the analysis of data compiled from the Census Bureau and the ports of Los Angeles, Long Beach, California, New York, and New Jersey. According to port data, the total export container deficit for the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles was 136,392 TEUs. An estimated 41,546 TEUs were denied out of the Port of New York and New Jersey. The total value lost export trade from those ports is $632 million. Yeah, don't ship the nuts out of California. Well, they can ship the nuts out of California as long as they ship the nuts to China. I'd prefer that they ship all the nuts to China. California has a very high nut population, I'm sure. And yeah, that's just crazy. Betancourt explained that for the retail side, the middle purveyor, they don't care. They'll replace almonds on store shelves with another snack. So unless almonds are a part of a product like almond milk or almond flour, not everyone will experience the loss. There are two other regions which grow almonds, Spain and Australia. And Australia is a major supplier to markets in the Asia Pacific region and has a free trade agreement with China. Betancourt said our second largest almond market is Germany, but Spain as a grower could supply the Germans. The Californian congressional delegation is working on this, especially after realizing the $2.1 billion loss of agriculture revenue in California because of the shipping crisis. That means no tax revenue to the state on $2.1 billion. Man, they need every penny they can get at the moment. We've all seen this. The shipping and port crisis has been almost 1 year to date. Late February, March 2021 was the last normal period at our ports. Yeah. That's some pretty interesting news. That news is causing minor meltdowns in the supply chain world, along with the fact that apparently one of the largest logistics companies in the United States suffered a cyber attack on February 13th that took down their entire system. And they're still operating a whole lot on paper because they can't get their system working properly again. When logistics is down even 24 hours, you have a problem. Okay? So we have a problem. But that was just an interesting news article I ran into in between the thousands of posts on Reddit across multiple subs concerning fallout and radiation maps, and can I build the bomb shelter in my bathroom, and where can I buy a Geiger counter, things of that nature. Reddit is melting down over the prospect of a nuclear war. I think they're a little bit worried. Yes, a nuclear meltdown. On the other side of this, Russian metal exports slide as sanctions hit commodity financing. Russia's industrial metal exports are sinking as the country's invasion of Ukraine prompts commodity buyers and financiers to pull back from its powerhouse producers, according to executives and analysts tracking trade flows. The nation's top steel makers have seen exports drop since the incursion began, while nickel shipments have also been affected, people with knowledge of the matter said. Wow, that's one step above anonymous sources. We're doing good now. While the response to Russia's actions differs from country to country, Germany has halted almost all steel purchases, one of the people said, asking not to be named given the commercially sensitive nature of the transactions. With Russia among the top 5 global producers of steel, nickel, and aluminum, reduced metal shipments threaten to further tighten a market that's already short on supply. While metals haven't been directly targeted by sanctions, prices are surging on concern that the latest measures could snarl payments to suppliers and spur banks to rein in financing for purchases of Russian goods. Russia's metal shipments are falling, and buyers are hesitant in the context of sanction uncertainty and escalation, Goldman Sachs Group said in a note. With materially reduced export volume out of Russia, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan, all the base metal markets will face accelerated tightening in the near term, they said, without specifying how they're tracking trade flows. Some shippers are refusing to transport Russian commodities, such as nickel, but the impact on volume so far has been minor, another person familiar with the matter said. MNC Norilsk Nickel, PJSC, is Russia's only producer of nickel. Our operations are proceeding as usual. We continue to meet all our contractual obligations and remain committed to our clients and partners, a spokesperson for Nornickel said. Nickel futures on the London Metal Exchange surged as much as 3% on Monday before giving up gains later in the day to settle 0.3% lower at $24.28 a metric ton. Aluminum also soared as much as 5% to a fresh record before retreating to settle 0.3% higher at $3,368.50 a ton. Other main LME metals were higher. Banks were already limiting their exposure to Russian shipments before this weekend's further round of sanctions, which excludes some Russian banks from the SWIFT messaging system and penalizes the country's central bank. At least 2 of China's largest state-owned lenders are restricting financing for purchases of Russian commodities, underscoring the limits of Beijing's pledge to maintain economic ties with one of its most strategic partners. In Europe, Societe Generale SA and Credit Suisse Group AG stopped financing commodities trading from Russia, people familiar with the matter said. The two banks, key financiers to commodity trading houses, are no longer providing funds to move raw materials such as metals and oil from the country. Russia's invasion has roiled markets worldwide, from energy to grains, heaping more inflationary pressure on a global economy already grappling with soaring costs. In case you have missed the news, the mainstream media has once again told us that inflation is a good thing, and inflation is going to be higher now rather than going away, because it was supposedly going away because Russia and Ukraine. This is going to be the case for the foreseeable future. Very, very bizarre stuff there. What else is new? U.S. officials are said to be weighing exemptions for transactions involving the energy sector in a bid to tame surging oil prices, almost $100 a barrel. But if similar dispensations were granted for metals, it's unlikely flows would return to normal quickly given the turmoil in the Black Sea freight markets, Goldman said. Russia's United Co. Rusal International PJSC, the world's top aluminum producer outside China, came under further strain on Monday as it halted shipments at an alumina refinery in Ukraine that feeds its smelters at home. Turkey was the single largest buyer of Russian aluminum in 2020, ahead of China, Japan, and Germany, according to UN Comtrade data. Italy and Greece are also major importers. As a result of sanctions, should counterparties be unable to transact with UC Rusal, as was the case in 2018, there's a risk all of UC Rusal's overseas alumina assets could be impacted. Ami Shivkar, principal analyst in Wood Mackenzie's aluminum team, said in a note. Any significant reduction in alumina production would impact primary metal output in short order, leading to even greater primary aluminum market deficits. While Russia's commodities trade is facing immediate threats, the country's producers also fear longer-term risks arising from sanctions targeting its imports of high-tech products. Russia's mining companies are reliant on equipment and software licenses from overseas vendors, executives at three of the firms said. Well, to date, we apparently are sanctioning everything except buying oil from Russia, which seems a little bit bizarre. Then again, considering that we no longer have oil and gas leases operating in many cases, it is not surprising. I suspect oil is going to go above $100 a barrel fairly shortly. It will be interesting to see where it goes from there. And that is some of our Russian news. You may notice if you go to any of the metal sites online, most of them are sold out of a whole bunch of stuff, and most of them are now delaying orders for several days to several weeks. When we went to the local coin shop today, there were quite a few customers in there compared to usual. Normally, Monday midday is about the slowest time of the day. Normally, Monday midday, they have nice gallon-sized bins of junk silver that we can buy. Today, they had one little sad bin with about an inch of mercury dimes left in it in terms of junk silver. That was a little bit disturbing. There are reports that premiums are once again on the rise across the country, and a couple of people online weighed in and said at their local auctions the prices were through the roof. So just something to keep in mind. It's a good idea to get yourself down to your local coin shop if possible and get yourself some coins while they're still there, if they're still there. And no, I don't want to read about Krugerrands today. Thank you. Roberts, in my experience, if you can get promo codes and if you can find a good deal online, there are a couple of online websites that are really good. Silver Gold Bull usually has some pretty good prices. JM Bullion usually has some pretty good prices. Moneymetals.com usually has some pretty good prices. I prefer shopping at the LCS because we use fiat, those little pieces of paper with dead people on them. And if you use fiat and an LCS, essentially nobody knows about it at all. Your local coin shop, your LCS, is a good place to buy coins if one wants their transaction not to be overseen by the federal government and one is using fiat. So, yeah, even if my LCS is charging an extra 1%, today it was 24 times spot when we bought. And the price of silver at the time we bought was like 24.18 an ounce.
Face.
23 face. Yeah, 23 times face. Yep. Rob, if you can buy from a private party, that is a great way to do it. That is absolutely a great way to do it. For me, while I can understand the convenience of going to an online website, plopping down a credit card, and buying several $1,000s worth of 10-ounce bars, and they're very, very pretty. With all the mail theft and postal malfeasance and shipping delays and lack of privacy, a paper trail, I prefer not to do that. We are currently making sure that the vast majority of our funds are in fiat or are in silver. Because fiat you can still spend without people knowing what you're doing. And considering the way the federal governments all over the place have been acting lately, I prefer they know as little about what I'm doing as humanly possible. So I will pay an extra percent or two for privacy, which is important. And true, Resort Dog, the mail is insured, but I've seen more than a few people that it can take days, weeks, etc. to get it cleared up, depending on what happens. Resort, like I said, I mean, we have bought from Money Metals. As a matter of fact, I'll probably buy some more stuff from Money Metals when they actually get some more in that I like, because at the moment they're really low on supply, like a whole lot of people are. Earlier today, Kitco only had 1,000-ounce bars left of silver, and it's not like I could part with that kind of money, you know. And, you know, I mean, yes, I will use the PayPal account and sign in as a guest, and I will buy silver online when I see something I like that is a good price. But I prefer the instant gratification. I prefer going down to the local coin shop, talking to the dude, finding out how business has been and what kind of gossip he's heard lately, and plunking down fiat and getting silver and going away. And yes, big time sold out from the silverback stacking. People are stacking like crazy today over on Wall Street Silver. And if you happen to be on Wall Street Silver, there is still a promo code for us apes over at Silver Gold Bull. It's listed in the About section on Reddit, r Wall Street Silver. So there is special ape pricing for those of us that hang out there, which is really cool. And yeah, Resort Dog, actually, on the matter of art, I'm going to be getting creative, because Lauren was telling me about this dude on YouTube that I'm going to look up that apparently soaks wood in stannous chloride and then zaps it with electricity, and the tin follows the grain lines in the wood and makes art. Okay. Now, oh, that reminds me, I gotta go get them. You guys see these people? I have been having fun. This is brass. That is brass. About 95% copper, 5% tin. And it looks like an Apollo capsule. So I'm going to put a little itty bitty American flag on it and a little United States and find a teeny tiny astronaut to put next to it. This is zinc. Now, a word to the wise: if you decide that you want to melt down some zinc, it's a bad idea to use an electric furnace because it catches on fire. But the color of the fire is so freaking cool, people. I mean, it was just bizarre, but it was cool. Okay. And this little dude is part copper and part nickel, and I'm calling it Metalhead. I'm going to build a little robot body to go with my little muscle, with my little robot Metalhead here. I am very happy with this piece. Okay. But yeah, Roberts, he uses some sort of system to put awesome patterns on a piece of wood. Now, my thought was, if you could do this with stannous chloride, there probably isn't any reason why you couldn't do it with copper chloride or nickel chloride or even silver or gold if you had enough of it. So I'm going to be looking into this because I had a vision. I'm picturing slices of seasoned pine wood that somebody named Jim probably has access to, that have been spalted or beetle damaged or otherwise, so they'd have interesting flaws in them. And I'm picturing them shot through with metal and then stained with different colors of stain, you know? They'd look really, really cool. Well, actually, this here was made with some stripped copper wire. That one worked out really well. But at any rate, this is a very good time to be stacking silver, because our dearly beloved friends at Comex had to play fast and loose with their contracts the other day for March. And we still haven't figured out how half of them were fulfilled. It looks like they might have been traded to somebody else under the table, and probably illegally. But yeah, they're having a few problems over there. They're going to have to register a whole lot more of their stash in order to deal with things in the next couple of months. And if the price of silver and gold go up as far as some people predict it will, then a whole lot of people that currently have paper contracts are probably going to want to trade them in for actual money, which is going to lead to a problem. It's going to lead to a big problem. So we're going to take a look at a clock or two today. According to the U.S. National Debt Clock, which is one of those things that I try to avoid looking at because it's very depressing, I am letting it load right now, but the debt clock is, as usual, a sea of red. And the current paper to gold ratio is holding at 109.75 to 1. But the paper to silver ratio has gone up in less than 2 weeks from about 308 to 1 to 354.62 to 1. This is getting a little bit bizarre and ridiculous. And according to the doomsday clock, we're now at about 100 seconds to midnight. Woohoo! When it goes into double digits, then I'll start actually paying attention to it. But at the moment, it's only at 100 seconds to midnight. So, and remember, they changed the way they calculate it. So they also bring climate change into it now. So we have no idea whether that 100 seconds to midnight is because of the climate change or because Putin is about to nuke the world. Either way, it's probably not good news. If anyone wants an interesting website to read, you might want to go to Mises.org, MISES.org. They are the leaders in Austrian economics. Very smart people over there, and all kinds of interesting articles on current events that would probably get me in trouble on YouTube. Yeah, let's go, Brandon. Apparently, dude's giving some sort of a State of the Union address. Oh, and guess what? He is redefining the arc of his presidency, according to the New York Times, who's giving him glowing reviews for how masterfully he is handling Russia right now. He is redefining the arc of his presidency. We're no longer doing Build Back Better at the moment. We're going to be doing Made in America. Wow, does that sound familiar? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could swear I heard that phrase a couple of years ago. Uh-huh. I could swear I heard the phrase made in America and buy in America a couple of years ago, and it had a 4-point plan attached to it. Now, it is possible that Lord Malarkey has a different 4-point plan attached to his definition of made in America. I wouldn't count on it. I don't count on much of anything at this point. Actually, I think it would be 1 point. Lord Malarkey has a 1-point plan for all of us. You did not see that. None of you saw that. Now, gold, as you know, closed around 1903 today, and silver closed above 24, again at $24.32, which should be a lot higher, but we all know how that works. So let's take a look at a few of these articles here. Oh, and another funny thing I noticed the other day, quite by accident. If you've ever read various articles on various propagandist apparatchik websites like Yahoo and Bloomberg and elsewhere about metals, precious metals, you may notice that normally silver is the red-headed stepchild. It isn't mentioned at all. If it is mentioned, it's dismissed as some picayune hobby for tinfoil hatters, like there's actually something wrong with this concept. And gold, of course, is praised to the skies. Well, the other day, I noticed a whole lot of articles praising cryptocurrencies to the skies because they are saving the Ukrainian people. The Ukrainian people and their various charitable organizations are turning to cryptocurrencies to keep people stocked with stuff. This is funny considering that most of the cryptocurrency prices have been falling more than they've been rising of late. But what I found even funnier was all of a sudden there were 3 different hit piece articles about why buying silver is a stupid idea from 3 different media sources in the same day, actually within 3 or 4 hours of each other. Their reasoning, by the way, was absolutely spurious, but what else is new? Because, we're talking propaganda here. But I just found it interesting because you don't normally see a direct hit piece against silver. You also don't normally see direct praise pieces regarding crypto. This is interesting because it shows a shift in what the media is trying to push people toward. I think crypto does have a place in your portfolio. I have some, okay? And I'm going to be getting some more in a couple of weeks because I found this cool new app where I get to do surveys and listen to music and I get paid. So my first payment, I got a $10 Amazon gift card. My next payment, I'm going to get $10 in Bitcoin on my Coinbase account. Cool. But at any rate, crypto does have a place. Everything like this has a place in our parallel economy. And that is something that I found an article on Survival Blog about. Survival Blog ran an excellent article this week on building a parallel economy. Now, to elucidate this concept, we all know that shit rolls downhill. This is an established fact. Now, our federal government and the Federal Reserve are sitting on the top of that hill. So if they decide to do something like old Sox did and say, we don't like the way you're talking, so we're going to freeze your bank accounts, or if banks or social media companies decide to cancel somebody and cancel their business, and their credit card companies cancel their business, and their PayPal cancels their business because they don't like them, you're kind of shit out of luck here. So more and more people are exploring the development of local parallel economies. This is where you go to your local mechanic to get some repairs done. Bob down the street, and you say, hey, Bob, how about I pay you in silver? This is where you go to your local rancher and say, well, I want to buy that cow over there. Can I pay you in silver or crypto or gold or barter your labor? This is a time when we need to start looking at developing parallel economies, because the only reason our federal government and others are pushing the idea of central bank digital currencies is so they can get rid of cash. And they will have the ability to tax you wherever you are. They will know everything that you spend money on. And whenever they want, they will have a way to flip the switch so that you can't touch your money anymore. Your money will go poof, or it will get hacked and go poof, or the internet will go down and it will go poof. Somehow it will go poof. You only actually own what you control and physically possess, which is why the fiat is in the house and the silver and the gold are in the house. Because if it's anywhere else, it can get stolen, it can get confiscated, it can just go poof. Things do go poof in this world, okay? It is not that blockchains are not secure. The blockchain is a very, very secure idea. But unless you are communicating private wallet to private wallet, hard wallet to hard wallet, you're going through a centralized clearinghouse somewhere, like Coinbase. And at any time, the federal government can turn around and say, well, now that we've released our own Fed coin, Coinbase and all these other companies are only allowed to handle our Fed coin. While we still have alternate currency choices and real money available, is the time to expand our parallel economies and get our local people in the mindset that you can conduct business without relying on the digital world. You can conduct business in cash, hand to hand, in silver, hand to hand, gold, hand to hand, crypto, private wallet to private wallet, or Coinbase to crypto, or straight barter, or trading, or just about anything else. Because, quite frankly, I know this is going to come as a shock to you, but our economy is not very healthy right now. There is a sneaky suspicion that is beginning to grow on the general public that the almighty dollar is like an emperor that happens to be wearing no clothes. And once the people realize that that emperor actually does have no clothes, we're going to have a real problem on our hands. And in the gold news, even Kitco thinks that gold may hit 2,200 within the next 6 months, and there are some forecasts that gold may hit 7,400 beyond the end of the year, depending on how long the Ukrainian war goes on and what Putin does. Now, Putin is an interesting case. Putin stopped buying U.S. Treasury bills a long, long time ago. They only hold about 160 billion of them. Too bad, because right now, if he really wanted to screw us over and he had a couple of trillion like China does, he could just dump them right on the market, and then we'd really be in trouble. Oh dear. But he only has about 160 billion. However, he's also sitting on about 43,000 tons of gold and a whole bunch of silver, and a very, very active, not hollowed out mining community for all kinds of critical metals. And he's making backdoor deals with China, who's been, the Panda Patrol's been piling up gold and silver and other things for some time, and making a few little overtures toward India, which has been stockpiling gold and has really been heavily piling up silver for the last year or so, which is an unusual departure for them. Now, given that the powers that be around the world have decided to cancel old Vlad in the banking department, though they have not canceled him entirely because they still want his oil and they still want his metals. And being that Maersk is talking about not allowing any of their ships to dock in any port or ship anything to Russia or out of Russia. It stands to reason that there's no reason why he couldn't take his toys and go home. There's no reason why he couldn't shut off those pipelines to Europe and let them freeze in the dark because they're a bunch of green-oriented persons. But he could go one step further. He is in an excellent position to tell everyone, well, you can still buy my gold. You can still buy my oil. You can still buy my wheat. You can still buy my mining stuff. You can still buy all my metals. But you're going to have to pay me in gold because since you think I'm not good enough to use your money system, I'm not going to use your money system. At this point, that would probably cause a few problems. It would certainly be interesting. I don't think it's going to go that direction. But for the record, old Vladimir may be a very, very bad dude. And what he's doing is totally uncool. But no, he's not clinically insane, okay? He is nowhere near insane. We may not know what he's doing, but he sure as hell does. So, just something to keep in mind there. I don't know why the media has decided he's nuts because he ain't. Yeah, I'll tell you. Well, actually, Roberts, I use Planet Fitness, thank you. I hate the gym, but I go to the gym once a day, 5 days a week, for an hour to an hour and a half. We do not accept crypto yet, but I'll tell you right now, I do have a Coinbase wallet. I am not averse to using it. If anybody wants it, email him and I'll send you the information because quite frankly, the few crypto coins I have been hanging out on the Coinbase wallet being largely ignored for forever. But I'm thinking that I maybe ought to find a way to turn them into something at some point here. But at any rate, people, something tells me that this is going to be an interesting week or 2 or 3. I have noticed that the mainstream media seems to be once again fashioning an alternate reality. That's it. Hey, they're perfectly allowed to do so. They're allowed to be fabulous. I just wish they wouldn't try to pass themselves off as news, okay? Vladimir is not insane. China is still a far huger threat at this point to us directly than Russia is. Federal digital currency of any kind put out by any government is a really, really, really freaking bad idea, and it's a very, very good idea to avoid it as much as possible. Don't keep cash in the bank. Remember, the Federal Reserve, as of a couple of years ago, has announced that banks are no longer required to have any physical cash reserves at all, which means if they decided to just close the doors or turn off the ATM machines, that would not be an issue in the least. They're not even required to keep cash on hand anymore. And quite frankly, that should tell anyone with half a brain the actual value of the fiat with the dead people on it. Because if it is so without value that they're not even required to keep 1% around to pay you if you decide you want pictures of dead people rather than writing a check or using a debit card, there's something really funny going on. Not that that would be the first time. After all, our government is they don't like us. They really don't like us very much. I know that sounds harsh, and that sounds even tinfoil hattish. But really look at what they've been doing lately. Do you think they like us? I don't. Bye-bye.
Oh.
Okay, Lauren, if you said anything in the last half hour, I didn't see it at all. Oh.
Go back through the comments and answer any questions, Bear.
He's probably still working on
Well, I'm pretty sure he is.
it. He's probably hard at it yet. You should ask him, Keith, if we could do a live stream some night right out there at his shop.
Jim says he'd like to do a live stream out at your shop some night.
Yeah, we'd have to get it all lined up ahead of time and figure out what we want to talk about.
Lauren is shy.
Well,
Lauren
it'd
don't wanna
have to be his deal. But
There you go, Kelly. That's my email.
Shuka tank.
And I spell it a little differently. No T and C instead of a K.
K instead of a C.
No, it's a Spanish Pachuca.
Ah, okay.
I think it's got an H at the end too, but I'm not sure. You're welcome, Kelly.
Huh.
How about cornstarch leasing? Haven't heard about it. Do not know. This seems to be pretty fast stuff. There you go, smoking. Make sure you put a plastic liner under the lid because a mason jar has a metal lid which could precipitate any gold. A plastic jug would be a little better.
Yep.
If you have just a
clean gallon jug, plastic gallon jug.
Just a little quart thing.
Or
with
a new water
thing,
cheap water container.
Why would you want to dump it, Lars? Well, he apparently likes your idea, Jim.
Well, it's something we could talk about. I'll try to get out there, Lauren, to meet you and everything. But I was just thinking, maybe change things up occasionally when we, especially if we have a chance before the weather gets too nice.
That's why you're crowdsourcing it, smoking, because if there's a problem, one of us will spot it. Usually Chris, but I got that one. Actually, I don't see Chris on here. Maybe he's eating.
Took a bite.
I got first shot. Yay! But anyhow.
Oh man.
The bead is parting, huh?
Cool.
Lauren, do you think you'll have the parting results by the end of the thing, or do you're vaguely here, huh? Or do you think that, how much silver you inquarted, if any, and how much the Cupel bead was? You got any idea how much actual gold was in it, and what resin were you using on that one? I forget which one we suggested. I'm kind of thinking it was cartridge 1, but I'm not sure.
Well, Kelly's been reading the Charles Butler book, I see.
Yeah. Oh.
Got your notes going.
Oh.
Well, I thought I would go into back to the subject of, is it mineable? And, investing, if you're going to start to invest in a level above prospecting, kind of where to go with that. Placer's a complicated situation until you understand the deposition of it. And the only way you can understand the deposition of it, honestly, to be successful, is to thoroughly have a testing program that's very, very intense. Notebooks with notes, photographs, video, trying to make sure that you're testing and figuring out your gold recoveries in your test holes, where the gold is at what levels, where you can do your strip ratios. There's a lot of little things that come into play that aren't little things, they're big things. And if any of you are going to invest even with a friend in a mining operation or anything, the testing program is where you put your money first. If there's no testing program, it's not proven out enough that it can, justify bigger amounts of money, walk away. And that would be really, even with a big mining company, you want to understand their testing program, their exploration, what they're doing, what they're learning, and why, before you start peeling off $100 bills to hand out, or to really put money into something. Like I say, it's critical to totally understand the deposit. I don't know what happened there.
I have a good idea. Could you stop? God, I hate this stupid thing. Just keep talking.
All right. I'll keep going. But a thorough testing program is really going to identify your amounts of gold, the amount of gold-bearing gravels and cobble and things you're going to be handling. You also, by doing testing, identify issues that if you were to scale it up into a bigger mining operation, you're definitely going to find the clay or water issues or rock issues and all the issues that are going to tie into what it's going to take to mine this on a bigger scale. Your depths to bedrock, depths of clay, depths of overburden. The amount you can calculate at that point, once you really get into your testing situation here, you can begin to calculate the amount of materials you're going to have to move based on the values of the property. And also, you're looking at infrastructure. What is it going to take at that point to mine it? Ponds, water control, or lack of water. All those issues become relevant as you're going through a testing program before you before you start to bring in bigger and bigger equipment or to scale up to a point of a real operating mine. Once you've gotten through a testing program, you can basically get to the point of doing a mining permit. And when you go to that point, you need to have a mine plan and feasibility. First of all, is there enough value to justify taking it to a full planning concept? A reclamation plan is going to play into that. That's a big component because you want to handle the material the least amount of times in order to be able to environmentally put it back so that it matches, the existing drainage and the area around it. Something aesthetically pleasing usually. That gets you, when you get to the mine planning stage, it really brings you into the permit requirements. By doing your testing and understanding the deposit, you begin to get an idea of the size of equipment or the size of operation that you could run at effectively and make money. This could actually be a small operation, but you have to start with the testing program. It will pull forward at what level do I have to operate at in order to start to show some money. Oh, definitely. California Mining Journal is great for a lot of good old articles. Go back in the old ones. You can get it online.
On gold and silver.
Yeah. No, great magazine. Chris Relf writes some good articles. He does some great videos as well.
I agree with Chris. I think he writes better than his videos.
I think he does.
He hasn't acquired the skill yet in how to present a video really smoothly and efficiently.
Well, he's like us. He's like us, though. He isn't trying to necessarily make videos. He's trying to get information out And, you know,
Oh, he's more knowledgeable than me.
well, a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's, you know, you can't know all of this stuff. I mean, it does, you know, following different guys and learning different techniques and different ways of doing things is all good, guys.
Oh dear, what happened? Clear that up, huh?
After basically, once you've gotten to the point of equipment sizing and things like that, you need really to do a site assessment. And this is one that you kind of do when you're doing your prospecting as well. You want to have some documentation on the site. You want to be able to take pictures, look at it. That way, when you're at home, you can figure out certain things that you're trying to remember. Instead of trying to remember it, you can have notes in notebooks, photographs to look at, that kind of thing. You can plan out the site by doing the site assessment. You kind of get to a point where you can start to plan out the site. How would you mine it? Where would you put the wash plant? Where would you put your ponds? Maybe a road. If you need a road in there, where would you put that road so that you're not putting it in on top of some ground that you have to dig up and have to move the road again? You know, where you could maybe park your camper or whatever, a mining camp. You don't want to put that kind of infrastructure on a piece of ground that eventually you're going to have to mine. Ideally, you want to locate certain things away from ground that you're going to eventually mine. Yeah, a mill site.
Goldstream, it's not free. ICMJ is a pay site.
Yeah, it is a pay site.
Yep.
Some articles are free though if you go on their website.
Okay.
Just not all.
Their ads are always free to read.
Yeah, ads are. As you're planning out the site, you can figure out where, you know, put stockpiles. Where do you put a pond? Where do you put a diversion ditch? You know, a lot of these drainages that I work in, we have too much water. In a lot of cases, you end up basically creating a diversion ditch, well, for two reasons. You've got a diversion ditch to remove groundwater above where you're going to mine so that the ground you're mining isn't so damn wet and muddy, and you don't want to be, ideally, you'd never want to be digging in water. You're always going to lose gold if you're digging in water. The only variation to that, honestly, is with a dredge, because you're vacuuming up everything that you're working in. With excavators and buckets and that, you're chasing gold if you're digging in water. And the other thing about diversion ditches can also be for control of groundwater. If you're in a drainage, it's up to you to manage. Maybe it's a possible flood coming down, heavy rains up in the mountains above you or whatever. Smoking, there's a couple different things there. You can do the mini biffs. You can do basically an above ground septic tank retention. You have the same issues that you have with gasoline and oil barrels and everything on site. It's kind of considered like a hazmat area. We've usually, on our sites, yeah, Chris, but you can also buy one. I mean, if you're going to be on a mining site for any amount of time, it's cheaper to actually buy one and mix your own chemical and then just hire somebody to come up once a month or every other week and empty it or whatever, depending on how much use you're getting. But on a mine, you are responsible for, you know, like I say, flood control type issues and groundwater control issues that you have to pay attention to. So you have to, a lot of times you'll have diversion ditches above you and around you where your mining site is, so that the only water, you know, the rain falling stays within your mine site, and any water coming from the above drainage is going around you naturally like it would in the creek or the stream. So that you're not getting contamination that you have no control of. I guess if anybody's got any other good questions here, I'll try to go through them. I don't know if you guys can read all of that on the screen or not. The small screen here is a little harder to read, but I just thought I would go into that because even if you're going to invest in a mining operation with some friends or something, you know, and we push it highly all the time here, is, you know, test and understand the deposition and the deposit so that you can start to predict, you know, what's mineable or where to move the next test holes to. Once you've done some testing, you can start to kind of go out of that and go, okay, now I can predict this a little bit. Let's put a test hole over here and over here and over here.
I'll go over it in a minute, Tricky.
Yeah, Chris, you got a good point there. Composting, incineration toilets. You know, there's many ways on a site to deal with that, and it's something that will be, if you're on Forest Service or BLM and you're going to have a mining camp or something, those are issues that need to be in your mine plan. How are you going to deal with that? You know,
What do you do for bears?
we always had guns.
I know, but I mean, what do you do to keep them from being attracted to the camp? Do you burn all your trash
or take it out, you know, haul it out once a week or whatever. And it would have to be in a sealed, you know, which they make bear-proof garbage cans. And, you know, yeah, you need to contain, and those are issues that you will deal with.
Around here you will.
That's a good one.
That's not bad,
Yeah,
Chris.
that's a good idea, Chris. I'd even throw in to have that done.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick. A printer copy. Oh, I'm sure you could do that eventually once you come up with the actual formula.
Oh, yeah.
Tricky's looking for it to compare his notes against Keith's.
Why don't I go ahead?
Yeah, you can.
You want to?
Yeah,
take
this
yours
can
down
come
for a moment?
down.
And I'll kind of explain this again for the latecomers too. Now, one thing we found
Out there, that'll work.
closer maybe. There we go. Anyhow, I think that'll get you the numbers. Didn't even touch it.
No,
Good Lord.
bump the table, I think.
Yep. Anyhow, the one thing we found out is that if you dry the resin at any temperature above room temperature, you do something that makes it difficult to recover the gold. We suspect you're kind of encapsulating the gold or messing with the resin in a way, although we have not ruled out the possibility it just evaporates. But at 145 degrees, I would be quite surprised if it was evaporating. That doesn't mean you can't see it. It's too small. Oh, my goodness. Go ahead and scoot back a little here. Go ahead and grab your side.
We'll bring it in more. Whether this is going to help or not.
Towards me a little?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Anyhow,
Right.
So you can, in fact, smelt wet resin. Believe it or not.
Yeah, Chris, we've seen it there, so Keith can go back to it.
Yep. And anyhow,
it did come.
Because different moisture contents in resin have different densities, even though they should theoretically potentially have the same amount of gold, these bead sizes have been adjusted for the density differences in the resin. But wet resin, same effective size sample, the bead was 0.273 grams. If I dried it at room temperature, Tricky, it was 0.263 grams. If I dried it at 145 degrees, the same formula, same process, etc., only gave me 0.142 grams. At 250 degrees, 0.106. At 400 degrees, 0.115 grams. So this axis here is the size, the weight of the bead. Okay. This one is the temperature at which you dried the wet resin. So this one, let's see, where was that one spot?
Does that help, guys? I don't know. I tried to adjust the light a little bit there.
I had something over here.
Make it a little easier on the.
There's also one over here that I don't know if it got erased somehow, but there's one up over here too. That goodness, what's the number on that one? 0.178.
He could probably do that. Email you a photograph of this, Tricky.
Well, I'm
After
going to
he
be
goes over
recovering from surgery tomorrow and
Oh,
stuff.
that's right.
Yeah. So anyhow, the basic principles are pretty simple. But one thing, there's a couple that are off this curve here. This one here, we added fluorite and potassium nitrate to the charge. And that did seem to improve the recovery significantly. This one over here, I oven dried it from resin that had been dried at room temperature first. So whatever that drying at room temperature does, it seems to stabilize it. It inhibits the negative effect of drying at the higher temperatures. So these are all dried at these temperatures from wet, directly from wet. This one was dried at 400 from room dried resin. So for whatever reason, the drying process has a substantial deleterious effect on direct smelting of the resin. Okay. And well, in my case, Kodak, it's cold temperatures. But anyhow, the standard charge on this was 10 grams of resin, 10 grams of silica, 20 grams of soda, 10 grams of borax, 60 grams litharge. Okay. Because we wanted to put potassium nitrate and fluorspar in here, the one that we did with that, we cut back. We still got 10 grams of resin, but then only 8 grams of silica, 16 grams of soda, 8 grams of borax, and the same 60 grams of litharge, but also with 2 grams of potassium nitrate and 2 grams of fluorite. So, it did almost identically.
Here, there's a couple of questions you probably should answer.
Okay.
Travis's.
Jeff, when I air dried the resin, the difference was so close as to possibly be within the margin of error. Come on. Oh, you stupid thing. No, this is not the Arizona stuff. This is Montana bee leached and absorbed into resin. And by air dry, I mean at room temperature, no elevated temperature at all. That seemed to work the best. Just put it on the counter and let it dry.
I think Tricky mentioned something back a little bit too. He asked a question that.
Okay, let's see. No rush.
Oh, right here. Maybe the resin bead is shrinking and locking up the precious metals.
That is one of the theories that's high on our list of possibilities.
Correct.
If you look at the thumbnail at the beginning of tonight's thing, what you're looking is at the inside of a crucible that was firing some of this resin. After it poured the charge out of the crucible, there's always a little bit of slag that remains on the side of the crucible. And that's what you're looking at, the surface of that slag. We're getting the Eco Goldex solution from a guy up in Montreal. I don't have the information handy, but if you just Google it, I'm pretty sure it's John Guo, Guo, up in Kanukistan there. Okay. Now, Chris thinks it's forming some sort of glass or ceramic. Possible. I'm thinking just carbon itself. If it doesn't oxidize, carbon is a very high temperature material. It doesn't break down that easily unless you can get oxygen or some kind of oxidizing agent to it. Then it will do something. One thing we noticed was when we are taking the charge, the crucible out at the high temperatures, you stir it, you'll see little beads of light float up to the top. When they get to the top, they go poof, literally, a little tiny explosion, flash of light. My interpretation of that is what you're seeing is a resin bead, either mainly metal that's glowing or carbon that's glowing, or both, don't know. As it gets to the top, it hits the oxygen and instantly ignites. Okay, I don't know. We can also see in some of the micrographs, we can see spherules that look like they're carbon. We can see some spherules that look like they're gold. Okay, this particular resin that we're doing, some of the stuff, some of it's pretty heavily loaded, some is not. Well, they're already at 1900 degrees, Chris. They don't explode until they hit the air. If they were actually explosive, I think they would blow up inside the charge. Okay? Yeah. And so that's kind of our assumption, is that the resin is doing something that's encapsulating the gold in some kind of very difficult to break encapsulation. Another thing that indicates that may be true is this right here, where by adding some potassium nitrate and some fluorspar, we got significantly improved recoveries. We went from 0.106 to 0.149. And so that's, 40%, 45% improvement. And we're trying to get to point, say, 263 there. Had a calculator. Oh, let's see. So 0.149 divided by 0.2263. 0.149 divided by 0.263. Okay, so we're at 60% recovery here. 0.106 divided by 0.263. And we're only at 40% recovery here. So we went from 40 to 60% recovery
20% difference.
by just adding an oxidizer or two.
That's where the problem is.
That's my guess.
Yep. I think you're right. I think you're getting that much closer.
I think that what's happening is that the resin that's been heat dried is really tough. And I'm not sure in exactly what way, but I'm guessing it's, I think what's happening is that it's getting so tough that by the time we'd normally be pouring it, all of the oxidizers are already used up.
Yep.
And they're just not, nothing left to do it. The other night, Lauren and I were working a sample, and because we noticed the little, what I think are the resin beads were floating up and pop, we just kept reheating it every 5 minutes. We'd bring it out, stir it, stick it back in. We did that for a while. And, oh, come off it. Ugh. Let's see. Where's my thing here? And we went from, we had beads of 0.550 and 0.590 on the regular procedure. But when we did that, we went to 0.634. We also added a little fluoride on that one. So that was a significant improvement, not a huge improvement, but significant.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of what I think is happening.
Yep. It's
Don't
being
know for
tied
sure.
up in the resin somehow.
Yeah, but there's a simple way to prevent the problem, and that's just don't heat it when you dry it, at least with this resin and this material, you know?
Slide in here, Keith, so we're in the camera.
And what's funny is these numbers are too high from the calculations. The calculations are much closer to these numbers here. So obviously there's something wrong with the calculated number a bit, but at these low concentrations, it doesn't have to be off much. This clearly would have to be 100%, but 100%, and that's less than 50%. So that would be the same kind of phenomenon we're seeing in the other resin, except we don't have any wet resin to test. Another thing we're going to potentially try is just rehydrating it.
Yep.
Perhaps the water breaks down into oxygen and hydrogen and does stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. If the water itself wouldn't add oxygen in the, combusting part of it.
That's a good question, Chris. What's the dissociation temperature of dihydrogen monoxide? There's a point at which the molecule breaks apart.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. But I say the fix to the resin that's already been dried may be nothing more than just soaking it or pressure, treating it with some steam or something. I don't know. We could put it in a pressure cooker too. And there's things we could play with. We still have lots of options. We haven't run out of ideas. Try purified water to soak it in. That would make sense, because then what do they call that? Well, no, not that. It's the osmotic force would tend to be trying to draw the water in. Yeah. Using distilled water for what, John? For the tons of leaching solution that I use to dissolve the gold and put it, dissolve rock and who knows what kind of different minerals, and then run it through the resin. Who knows what the resin's got in it? I'm not using any water for the smelting or anything at this point. The idea was just concept was you dry the resin and smelt it. None of our information sources indicated the possibility that in the drying process you could encapsulate the gold or passivate it or something, the gold.
Or get a chemical reaction with the resin that you're tying it completely in.
Yeah, that's what I think may be happening, Chris. The water content itself may be helping break it down. I don't know. We're certainly getting it hot enough to do some interesting things. So I say we shall try a number of ideas. And if Lauren wants to call me up in the next couple of days, if he's getting bored and wants to try some other stuff, we can talk it over and give him some ideas to try too. If you want to take a little bit of that dried either stage 1 or stage 2, then that might be, I think the stage 2 pulverized might be good. Weigh out a little bit of that and just soak it in water, put it in a beaker for a couple of days with distilled water, and then we can play with it later. Just make sure you weigh how much is there now, and then we can weigh it once it's quote unquote hydrated.
Ricky's got a question there for you.
No, I do not remember them. Oh, Let me boot up the other computer and I'll see if I can look them up. Oh. Yeah, this is turning out to be a rather annoyingly difficult question to figure out what's going on. Luckily, I say we figured out a solution for the future. Now I'm trying to deal with the dried resin I have right now and come up with a pretty. Carbon and water goes to methane, huh? Yeah, that would make sense to say. Some kind of reaction, as long as it breaks it out of that resin. That's all it would take.
Look at the resin. It had a cap missing, exposing the resin inside.
Oh, yeah, I know, Chris.
We're not doing too bad tonight.
Depending upon your leaching solution, Robert, so you can use activated carbon to absorb the complexes. Thank you, Lauren. But it doesn't tend to work very well with the thio complex. That's one reason you can use thiosulfate leaching on preg-robbing ores. The carbon in the ore won't grab the gold out of solution. Cyanide, you can use charcoal with. Not sure about thiourea, but thiosulfate, it doesn't work nearly as well as resin. Yeah, Lauren, the plan is this. I will drive myself to the hospital, park the truck, and go in and let them start on me. And then when they're finished with me and I'm ready to be picked up, we'll call Eva and Jim, and Jim will come pick up Eva so she can come down there and drive me back and bring the truck back. That way, Eva just.
Depending on what time in the morning this is, if it's before noon, you may have to pound on the door.
Yeah, well, he might not get out of there till afternoon, knowing how hospitals operate.
We have tried direct electrowinning, Tim. We cannot get anywhere near the current flow we need through the leaching solution to do that. We could theoretically take the loaded resin, put it in a chemical solution that would remobilize the gold, and then electroplate in that solution. That is also a possibility. We were trying for something very simple and straightforward to begin with. Can you pay to be in the observation room? I don't know. I'm suspecting not, since they don't even like to allow your next of kin in there because COVID, you know. How much current do you need? I'm not sure exactly how much current, but I know by the time I got any current at all, the voltage was too high. So as I say, it didn't seem to work out too well. I will, Lauren. And I say that's the current plan, but if anything goes awry, I'll let you know. Just stay by your phone there. Well, let's see.
He said he'd resend it, so.
Just a second here. I mean, I can search for him. And there's my mail. And some of the beads in some of the I have put lead in the cupel instead of litharge. It did not seem to work as well. The litharge is also oxidizing the resin. So we got some better recoveries that way. But yes, without any lead in the cupel, I mean, not the cupel, sticking resin in cupel with lead. No, you wouldn't stick it in a cupel. You put it in a crucible with the lead and then form a bead and put it in there. Let's see. So, Richard. Resin smelting. That looks. Don't see
No photos.
No photos there.
Video.
No. Yeah, I've got a lot of
Robert,
stuff.
I'm not.
I see the Y valve one, but I don't.
They're only resin, he said, just heated resin.
Yeah, I don't see.
Well, if you can find it, Tricky, send it again to Keith.
Yeah, I don't see it right off the bat.
Well, exactly, Goldstream. Yeah, that's. But you find a good mine, like this ore assayed out very well. So if he can perfect this, which he's getting close to, very viable concept of mining. It's just getting through this original test phase of, you can pay somebody to do this too, but.
Yeah, I mean, I say it's one of those things that we're approaching this from a very low budget direction, which should give other micro miners the tools they need to accomplish the task. Big mining companies have a lot of money, and they can do some really complicated stuff if it saves them a couple percentage points on the costs. But no, Goldstream, you're too far away. That would be so cool to give it a shot, but I don't know.
Surgery.
I don't think the hospital will let you just show up and knock on the door. Hi, I'm here to. Yeah, don't think so. I got the video. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, John. Oh,
yeah, Patrick. That's what he's trying to do.
That's what we're trying to do.
It actually started out pretty simple.
Well,
it's kind of gotten a little more complex.
Well, the funny thing is these are the numbers compared to my calculated ones that holds for all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, it would do real good.
Yeah, 110%.
How about 250%?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say it's always
250% recovery. Yeah.
Okay, now what's wrong?
Stayed at Motel 6 last night, huh? Yeah. What mesh size is the gold? The gold in the ore is 80% passing 2000 mesh. That's not a guess. That cost us a bit of money to find out, but yeah, it's running 80% passing 6.8 microns. Okay. Right now, I assume. Hi, Richard. I assume that we can improve the efficiency once we figure out exactly what we're trying to do. I would hope we could accomplish like 20 to 30 grams at a whack of resin. And if we could do that in the size crucible we're doing now, or something just a little bit bigger, then we'd be looking at about, with stage 1 resin, which is what we'd only want to do if we could.
Right.
We'd be getting about 3 grams per firing. So right now we're getting up to about a half a gram, a little over a half a gram per firing out of 10 grams of resin, but that's a calculated about 50% efficiency. We should be getting about 1 gram per 10 grams of resin per firing, and just a little crucible and a small electric furnace. Okay. So it should scale up, fairly large. Well, we can do the elution and electrowinning when we have larger quantities, theoretically. I think that if we can make it happen simply enough, then the fusion will work fine for reasonable quantities. I mean, right now, if you dried it, you'd be looking at roughly 300 gram, just air dried it, say 300 grams containing, yeah, let's say still be about 7-8% gold. So shouldn't be a huge difficulty getting reasonable amounts. So I say we shall see what we shall see. But even if we destroy the resin each time, $13 of resin holds about $1,500 in gold. So we're looking at 100 to 1 or better ratio. Yeah. Yeah, Travis, if you got real small gold, you want to classify pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also check your tailings. I've used gold cubes before. Sometimes they work pretty well. Sometimes you get over half of it going right through the cube, especially the real fine stuff. So use my my hand panning technique to check your tailings there and see what you got, because you may very well be losing over half your gold. That was my experience on some coarser hard rock gold. This stuff here, it won't even settle to the bottom of a bucket, to say nothing of a gold cube.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Yeah, literally, I make a slurry, let it settle for a minute, pour off the top third, re-slurry, do that. And the stuff that I was pouring off had a higher, once I dried it, settled it and then dried it, had a higher gold concentration than the head ore. So on net, it floated rather than sank. It certainly didn't sink worth a crap. Yeah. Yes, I have. I haven't. It was on a previous video, probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I don't remember. It was reasonable. I mean, it was like in the order of $50 to $75 per ounce recovered or something. Yep. So that's it's definitely cost effective. And once we have a cost-effective method, then we can worry about finding a more cost-effective method. We were hoping initially that we could just direct smelt it without the litharge. And in that case, we would wind up with just a bead, at the end of the smelt. But that was not very reliable. So my next thing, once we figure out how to get good recoveries, which we can do on the wet stuff, but now I'll try adding more oxidizer and reducing the amount of litharge and see. Yeah, Goldstream, I understand.
Yeah,
but
yeah. That's a real foreign country, isn't it? Goldstream.
Oui. But anyhow, so that's basically what we're looking at. We wanted something simple, quick, reliable. And once we got that, then we can worry about doing other. I mean, I've got other things I got to get completed. Got it, Travis. We got tests running. We just started them today. I took the grind off the Stutenroth mill.
Uh-huh.
And I classified it to 35 plus, 35, 60, and 60 minus. Assays are headed off right now for that. And then I'm going to bottle roll each one and see what the recovery speeds are.
Yeah.
I'm guessing we're probably going to want to do the split somewhere between 30 and 50 mesh, somewhere in there. The coarser you can classify to, the easier it is to classify. And so if 20 mesh will leach just fine, no sense grinding it any more than that.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see here. Tricky. Got it.
It came.
Let's see. The other one is only on almost like dial-up. It's taking forever.
Yeah. It's all right.
I think it's trying. I'm guessing it's having trouble loading the picture. Oh,
We got to give it a minute here, Tricky.
let me
It's
just.
trying to download it all, but
I think so. Let me just bring it up on this one here. What do we got
Travis asked you, what leech do you prefer? Well,
here? In what way, Travis, is the question. Wow, there it is.
yeah, there you had.
Okay, where did it go?
What's this?
I don't know. That's a good question.
No,
That's previous
that's
stuff.
Previous stuff. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, the little gold-looking balls look kind of familiar, and the gray-looking balls look pretty familiar. That looks like that you've roasted them a little bit. 400 degrees will do that. The not very much colored-looking balls, those look basically like resin coming out of the package with mine. Mine get really red. I'm not sure what it is. But yeah, 2A is surface carbon. Yeah, I would try putting something on top of it. You know, say mine seems to be doing really good with wet resin. Let's get back to the other thing here. Let's see. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, good night, Roberts.
Travis, the Eco Gold X is nice in that it's relatively low pH, low toxicity, seems to dissolve the gold pretty fast, loads the resin really quick. And now if I can just get it out of the resin easily, I'd prefer the Eco Gold X to cyanide. I haven't tried acid thiourea before, and not familiar with anything else. I've done a lot of cyanide heap leaching, but the Eco Gold X, the lack of toxicity is nice, especially when I'm doing bottle rolls in my kitchen. And
yeah,
the other day I actually had some. I was working on, I don't know, a valve or something, and it got splashed on my face, not in my eyes, but just on my face. I didn't even bother washing it off. Probably not the smartest thing, but
No,
a pH 10,
yeah.
you know. Agreed, Goldstream. I think overall, Travis, for small miners, I think the Eco Gold X is the best I know. That doesn't mean it's the best, period. There's other thios-based leaches out there now, but the lack of toxicity is important. In Montana, you can't even use cyanides. That pretty much eliminates that. It certainly dissolves the gold pretty quick, and it loads the resin really fast. I mean, it doesn't take much resin to grab the gold. When you have unloaded resin with 1 minute contact time, it's stripping like 97% of the gold out of solution
Instantly.
You know, that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
And the loading factors we're getting up to in the neighborhood of 25 grams per pound of gold per pound of wet resin. You know, or resin from the factory, which is damp. My calculated numbers on the dry resin were in around 10% gold. Okay. So I would definitely recommend researching it. Yep. This is one reason why when I'm doing all this stuff, I'm doing it not just for me, but for everybody out there.
Right.
You know, try and avoid my mistakes if you can.
Well, and you can learn through these videos and through watching what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's a an interesting learning curve.
Yeah.
You'll always have mistakes or a problem. You know, every ore is going to have a unique problem. Is that the next T-shirt, Goldstream?
Well, I'm making these little gold beads. What I'm trying to do is when I get my beads, recovered, then I okay, Clara, I'll let you know. Little one?
Yeah.
Clara says if you need a ride to the gym, she can give it to you.
Oh, cool.
Okay. All righty. Message delivered, Clara. Eva wants to get me a t-shirt that says, I've got gold balls, I see a few, but not all of them, Tricky. I don't know, Lars. That's a heck of a race. Actually, I just combine them into, I'm going for something between 1.5 and 2 grams per bead. Currently, total recovered gold is over 4 grams. And if we can get the recovery up on that resin 1 stuff, we'll be getting 1 gram per bead roughly. And that's if we don't increase the amount of resin we're cooking at each whack. So we shall see what we can see on that. If somebody robs me of my gold balls, that could hurt. Okay. Hey, Dan Holman, how's it going? Dan. Getting in a little bit late tonight. I'm probably going to be calling it quits here fairly soon. I got to be up at dark 30 to drive myself to the hospital so they can slice and dice on me, and then Jim and Eva will pick me up when they're done. But I say it would be good to get asleep at a reasonable time tonight. I can take care of those a lot easier than I can fix this, I'll tell you. No, about dark 5. Yeah. I think I'll be setting my alarm at 5 o'clock. What's the temperature? 50? Oh, the truck will start fine.
Oh yeah, it's going to stay warm tonight. It looks like
only
snow
be freezing
or,
or
rain
something.
Kinda,
yeah. Okay,
John.
Kodak. What do they call the doctor that graduated last in his medical class?
Doctor.
Exactly. I have no idea, Chris. What do you have? Kermit the Frog's undivided attention. They're not fuzzy. Kermit the Frog. Yeah, he's actually slick. I mean, if he's a frog. What did they do to the truck? He adjusted the choke. The issues are still not fixed. He said the drive shaft was reversed, but when Lauren and I went to reverse it, we pulled it off, and it's got different size U-joints on each end. So it can't be reversed unless we change yokes and stuff too. The tail shaft bearing on the transfer case had a little bit of wear, so we replaced that. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the new one had actually more play than the old one. Yeah.
You could shake it.
Yeah. You can stick your finger in there and you could wobble it a little bit. Yeah. Well, a brand new ball bearing, you shouldn't be able to feel any play at all, I wouldn't think. So anyhow, we may have to replace that again. It's still vibrating at certain speeds. So it's either the drive shaft or the engine is misfiring. Probably Kodak. I'm not surprised. It's from Napa, but I'm sure they were made in China. You don't shim a ball bearing internally. The inner race to the balls to the outer race is where the play was, not the outer race or the inner race to the shaft or the housing. I mean, you can take the bearing in your hand, stick your fingers in there, and feel a little bit of wobble. Don't think so. None of the engine mounts seem to be causing any problems, Richard. Eva probably could. I'm not going to. I need to get some sleep. I usually go to bed between 11 and 12. No, Chris, that came right out of the plastic pack. It was still sealed in the plastic packaging. It was the right number. It fit properly. Again, it's the bearing itself that had the play, not the engagement on either side.
Thanks, Tricky.
Okay, Tricky. That's an interesting thought, though, Chris came up with, is you take the water might make methane out of the hydrocarbon. That might be what's happening now. I know at 1600, when you open it up, it's, that was Napa, Chris. When you open it up at 1600, when it first gets there, yeah, you got flame coming out of the crucible, smoke and flame. Yeah, that can certainly happen, but that's not the case here. Yeah, I say it was still in the sealed plastic.
Fire up that other computer for me, please.
What?
Can you fire up that other computer for me?
Yeah, I can do it. Okay, it's booting up. So anyhow, that's the issue. It's not the right frequency for a tire, Dan. It's a much higher frequency than that. It's kind of shuddering as you're getting into second gear, and then in the third gear, and then it quiets down at a higher speed in third gear. However, I'm starting to feel a harmonic I used to. Yeah, I say we checked the part. The problem is the part had slop in it. I had the old bearing in my hand, and it's like, and I put the new bearing in my hand. It's like, this has more slop than the old bearing did.
You could have broke a fin in a torque converter, or there's all kinds of weird things that could be.
Yeah, well, it's in second and third gear. Not sure exactly what the speeds are. It stops at about 45 miles per hour in third gear. Hey, Adam. No, it's a Chevy 76 Chevy 4x4. It's got the.
Oh, that's right. You're signed in on this one. Crap.
I would have no idea, Chris. Didn't look at that. I know it had a spot for a snap ring in it, but that particular application doesn't use that snap ring. It has a snap ring that holds it into the
I'm
thing from
signing
the
into
end.
my email here.
Okay, could you stand up? You're hurting me. Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, ow.
I'm too fat.
No,
Did it fit into the housing okay? The
Yeah.
case?
Yeah.
So it wasn't loose there.
little teeny bit, but it fit in a little easier, and you didn't have to drive it real hard.
Okay.
Okay.
You shouldn't have to.
Yeah. But we could see where there was a little bit of road, so we put a little Loctite in it anyhow to just
and that should have taken care
shim
of
that a little. Yeah. I'm afraid we may have to take that out again. I know I've got some carburetor issues anyhow.
Were the U-joints loose?
Nope.
Wasn't a tight U-joint?
No, one of the U-joints was missing the grease zerk, so we replaced it anyway. Because we could the zerk
Because if you get
had
a
damaged
tight
the.
U-joint can do goofy crap like that to you too.
It's possible we might have got them in tight. I could climb under there and just take a hammer and bang them to the outside. You know.
Well, even if they start to fail, sometimes they'll get tight first before they get, start eating the bearing out.
Oh, I agree, Goldstream.
Oh, come on, you stupid piece of shit.
Shouldn't be much heat on that one, Chris. Yeah, I mean
Where did it go?
Just the tail shaft on the transfer case, so it shouldn't get too much heat there. But yeah, if it's a tight U-joint, then okay, I see what you're saying, Chris. Then that's possible. So it'd be easy to just climb under there and take a hammer and tap them to the outside, up against the snap rings, No, it stops at about 45, and I say it's way too fast for a tire. A tire would be wop 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 wop, but this is, it's much faster. Yeah, that's why we went to Napa, John. But yeah, we can easily whack those U-joints, make sure they're loose. It's also possible that when we were putting the U-bolts on them or something, we got the caps a little bit too tight.
Okay, I'm out of the email now, but I'm probably going to need to use my email again tomorrow. So try not to use your email on this computer.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with tire balance vibrations, though. So this is definitely more in the driveline or engine frequency range. Put on jack stands and watch. Well, that's plausible. Okay, Dan. Yeah, I say that's something that's easy enough to do. Yeah, I don't know, Goldstream. We gave them a number. They gave us a bearing. It seemed to fit. Does it change? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it changes with speed. At 25 miles an hour, you got no vibration. That starts to kick in and maxes out at like 30, 35, and then dies pretty quickly at about 45. No, not again. I know tire frequencies. I know driveline frequencies. It's either engine or driveline. Well, that could be it then, Goldstream, because no, not a wheel bearing. If it was shaking that bad with a wheel bearing, it would have come off by now. Could be a broken belt. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Terry.
In the tire, probably, but that isn't the issue.
Yeah. I say it's not wop 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 wop. It's
You're absolutely right, Chris. They used to actually have guys who understood parts.
Does vibration change depending on acceleration or slowing down? Yes. You can be accelerating in second gear, back off the throttle, it just disappears. Okay. No, it does. Front drive. It's a 76 Chevy. It's got a straight standard differential front end. Is the vibration new? It's a couple months old. Yeah, I could look for that. That's a possibility. Could have got whacked on something. Yeah. I'm thinking if it's not the drive shaft, I'm thinking the carburetor, because it's throttle sensitive, and I might have a a plugged. No, it's not. It's not
No.
bad. It's a high frequency, low amplitude vibration. Yep.
The death wobble.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Melinda.
Yeah,
I've been in Chevy pickups with the worn front
there were
end.
some Fords that
They
had
will
it
they will
too.
shake your teeth out bad. Yeah.
There's some Fords that had the death wobble too.
Say my thought is it could be in the carburetor where at certain speeds it's not fueling properly, so you're getting a misfire because of bad thing. I've got some other issues, which leads me to believe the carburetor's got issues anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a look and see if there's anything. That's easy enough to
That
crawl
is a
under.
possibility. I will agree with John on that. There is a possibility that
It's possible
because
yeah.
that'll give you a weird,
That,
and it's not violent enough to, it's not like it'll get worse. It just won't
Yeah.
go away.
Possible, Chris, but it's throttle dependent more than speed dependent. It comes in at certain speeds, but you back off the throttle, it instantly disappears. So that's one of the things. I mean, it just disappears. Because if it was an unbalanced drive shaft, I would think it's the speed that would matter, not your throttle setting. If you're getting a noticeable shake in your car, you back off the throttle,
Right.
and it's gone.
Yeah.
It just flat disappears. I agree, Goldstream. I wish I had my son-in-law here. They don't have a drive shaft shop here, John. Sorry. We have a saying here in Helena, Montana. You ready? It's Helena.
Yeah.
Okay, seriously.
And
It's
Keith
a phrase
has learned
here.
that in just this last year.
Yeah. Yeah, if it was in Tucson, I know exactly where I'd take it to.
Yeah.
Front drive shaft's not turning.
We gotta go to Great Falls.
No. The front drive shaft is not turning because it's a part-time four-wheel drive. It is in neutral. Checked it is in neutral. Checked that the front hubs are not engaged also. The front drive shaft spins by hand with the car parked. So I know it's not the front drive line. And yes, the front drive line did have some play. It cost me $300 to get that rebuilt and fixed. It no longer does, but yes. So I agree. I took it to a mechanic over here and I know it's called resonance Kodak, but why would the resonance be 100% dependent on the throttle setting? You're going at a particular speed, particular resonance, right? It's shaking. You back off on the throttle and go continuously at that same speed with no acceleration, and it disappears. It doesn't get noticeably less. It disappears completely.
It goes poof.
Yep. And having car issues? Yeah. Good night, Melinda.
Good night, Melinda.
And anyhow, hi, Daniel. But I'd say, what I tried the other day, it makes it's worse when you're going up a gentle hill.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I did was I manually put it in second gear. I was going up the gentle hill. And then I put it in third gear when I was past the shift point, so it'll make a sudden shift into third.
Right.
It did not seem to change the frequency of the shake. If so, that would be driveline.
Yeah, or transmission, yeah. Nope.
I don't know.
See that dropping it like that, that would take out the torque converter. So then, yeah, you're probably back to the vacuum, something happening, or that, like Chris said, actually the weights in the distributor could give you some interesting.
Yeah, I know, but that's not throttle dependent. That's speed dependent.
Harmonic balancer on the engine. Yeah, if the rubber's really bad on the harmonic balancer, you could get that. That's true.
But you'd notice it at engine speed. You could do it in park. If it was the harmonic balancer on the engine, you could be in park and just rev your engine to the right speed. You'd feel the vibration.
True.
Nope. Broken flywheel seems unlikely. It doesn't do it at all in first gear.
Didn't do it at highway speed.
It's definitely the rear. It's not in four-wheel drive.
Yeah, I've had cracked flywheels before though that were weirder than hell.
Yeah.
The flex plate will on the
Yeah,
torque
flex
converter,
plate will do that, but
if
I
they-
mean,
if they start to crack,
why not in
there's a certain-
first?
Well, it's slow enough yet.
Engine speed? The engine speed is the same. See that, and again, if it really is not changing frequency when you shift from second to third, it's in the back half of the transmission or further. The front half of the transmission, the torque converter of the engine, when it makes that shift, you feel a difference in vibration frequency. When it goes from second gear to third, it's going to change frequency on you. You know?
Well, without driving it around.
Yeah, it's not noisy
all
at
we're
all.
doing is guessing at this point.
Yeah, so I'd love to have a great mechanic. Just take it out for. I took it to the shop over there, told him what the problem was. He checked the carburetor. He says, your choke is misset and stuff. I was like, could you just take it out for a test drive? You know, he was busy. The other guy wasn't there. He was the only one in the shop. So, no metal in the engine, that's for sure. Does it have a carrier bearing? The output shaft sure does.
Yeah, non-overdrive.
I give them to Eva.
What?
What do you do with fossils when you find them? Sounds load dependent. Yes, it does. I agree. And I say the question is it the engine or the drive shaft? The fact that I can't make a clear differentiation in the frequency when that second to third shift leads me to believe it's probably in the drive shaft area, sort of thing. Yeah, I'm thinking it could be. I was leaning towards the engine for quite a while. Then when I tried the second to third shift, it's like, it sounds like a drive shaft. I mean, Lauren can tell you, we took it out for a drive after we changed that bearing. And it's like, we're going down the road. It's shaking, back off on the throttle. It's gone entirely. It's not a balance issue. Okay. Now, it could be some kind of a torque U-joint interaction issue, but it's not a balance issue.
Stick a magnet in the rear end.
You
See
know?
how much metal you pull out of the rear end.
Yeah, I have checked the timing advance. It's retarded just a little bit. Reduce the heat. It's at about 6 degrees before top dead. Its spec is 8. Yeah. And it idles smooth. Thrust issue, maybe. I don't know.
Well, guys,
This is the problem living in a new town where you don't have guys, their stuff. Again, I have a son-in-law that could probably drive it and tell you in 3 seconds what was going on. Alrighty, well, I'm going to call it a night here, folks. Yes, it's automatic transmission, 4-wheel drive, 76 Chevy K20. 3/4 ton with the big 303 or 305 transfer case, the big cast iron one. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of side play in the pinion gear. There's rotational slop, but it's probably a 50-year-old differential. It's going to have some. I don't know. Okay, Daniel. Night, Terry.
Thanks everybody for being here again. And
Good night.
if you have
everybody.
questions, just get them to Keith and we'll go from there.
I would agree. I would say I'd love to have you ride with me in it, smoking. Yep.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, it ain't wheel bearings. It has nothing to do with how you're turning or anything. Wheel bearings don't change by throttle setting like that does. Yeah, it's a one-piece drive. Well, it's a 2-piece drive shaft, but it's not 2 long sections. It's just the short spline section and the long one. That's all.
Single drive
Yeah. Well, that'd be fine. You want to send me some? Besides, this truck's got sentimental value. If we win the lottery, it's going into a fancy shop that, you know, tens of thousands of dollars are going into this thing. And then we'll have basically a new 76 Chevy.
Yeah.
And with some interesting modifications. Okay, folks. Well, you all take care. Thank you for coming and everything. And hopefully I'll get a video out this week. I've got the stuff. I just didn't take the time to edit it. And as soon as I feel up to it, I'll probably make a video or two. And we'll go from there. But it's probably going to be a week or two before I can go back to smelting. Darn it.
Well, you just recover.
Yep.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yep. Yeah, the mechanic did that. He put it in first gear and gave it throttle. It didn't start shaking or anything. I mean, there's only so much you can do like that because, you know, the brakes are only so good.
Yeah, brake standing it.
Let me know when I'm lucid again. Am I lucid now?
Yeah.
Wow. Night, Jeffrey.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Goldstream.
Jeff.
Yeah, I don't have the kind of timing light where I can check that. My son-in-law does. Yeah. He's saying, "Did you have that?" Yeah, it's like, "No, I don't have one of those." Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Yep, exactly, Goldstream. All righty, you guys take care, and I'll be back next week, I'm sure. If not, Eva will post something saying I perspired or whatever. Take care, happy prospecting, and keep it safe out there.